Hi guys, welcome to Counterfire, Counterpoints, Counterpolitics. We'll figure out a name and a brand eventually, but I hope you're doing well. We are going live a little bit later today. I do have family stuff going on. Also, I know that this will only be to the post-recorded VOD viewers, but I will be out next weekend. I'm going to a wedding in the Carolinas, and so I won't be able to hang out with you guys then. But, I did want to say hi. I did want to come hang out on this beautiful Saturday afternoon. And also, I think the few of us who are politically or geopolitically minded are probably fairly frustrated with what's going on the news. Christian Valera says, Connor, I don't know if you'll be streaming when Trump dies. If you are, please have a celebration stream. I will. I will. We need to. What is your title? It's Ukraine for noobs and let's just be real, retards. Okay. Reason being, I'm trying to think of how to phrase this, not necessarily delicately, but intelligently. There are a lot of people who are generally pro-Ukraine, but they don't know why they're pro-Ukraine, right? They just have this like vibe that it's a Western style democracy that's coming our way, and therefore they should support Ukraine. There are also a lot of retarded people like Brandon Herrera, just going to be honest, Theo Vaughn, Sagar and Jetty, all that kind of stuff, who are vaguely anti-Ukraine, and I don't think they know why, because their espoused principles should align them with Ukraine, but they're not. And they're just like, war bad, spending money bad, Russia not good, but I want them to get everything. And it's like, okay, well, you're dumb and you're multimillionaires and you're 100,000aires. So the fact that people listen to you on this topic is very frustrating to me personally. So that's kind of why we're going to go over it. I know it's a little bit hard politics. We should probably be talking about Destiny and who he has had sex with and who he hasn't had sex with, and what's the difference between a sex pest, a sex offender, and a sex predator. And we should talk about Queeman or J-Stock or Orbiters or whatever. But the truth is, this is supposed to be a politics channel, right? So we should probably talk about politics every now and then, not just Destiny's sex life and how it affects Twitch and YouTube politics. So it's because they're hacks. I mean, it's true. Yeah. Agreed, I'm European and live close to the Baltics. Yeah, it sucks. Theo is a know-nothing comedian, dip S, but Brandon 100% should care about Ukraine. Yeah, but here's the thing. Brandon isn't a military veteran. Brandon isn't a law enforcement veteran. He's just a business owner who got a lot of guns and hangs out with cops and veterans. So I actually find his videos. I do watch Brandon Herrera on occasion. I'm just going to be mean because the truth is we should be mean. I find his videos very like mid-tier. And what I mean by that is like, I don't find them particularly insightful. I find them interesting from like a very like lay perspective. So he's like, here's an AK-47. This is who built it. Here's why. This is all the conflicts that it served in. This is why I like it. This is why I don't like it. Now watch it blow stuff up. Now that's cool. I mean, that's great content. I'm not dogging the content. Obviously, it's popular for a reason. I'm just saying there isn't a lot of insight there. And then the few times that I've caught I think it's the Unsubscribed podcast that he runs with the Fat Electrician or whatever, I haven't found what he said to be particularly compelling. So that, I think that Brandon Herrera's, I'll just say it. I think he's kind of a midwit, in my opinion. Sultan Al Fahim says, hello. Hello. Hey, Connor, please, God, tell me you have a sane take on this insane administration. Yeah, I mean, it should be. If you're not a total moron, I think you should agree with me for the most part. John Cole says, you think the mineral deal is any good for a security guarantee since the U.S. would be incentivized to protect it? I don't. I think the reason why there isn't a security guarantee is because the Trump administration and the MAG administration doesn't want to make any promises that they're not going to keep. So they don't want to say, yeah, we will support your borders up to this line with, military intervention if Russia crosses that line. The reason why they don't want to say that is because if they say that, if they put that in writing, and then Russia actually tests those borders sometime in the next decade, let's say that they test it during a Vance administration. Let's say that somehow Trump doesn't run a third term, but Vance runs as the MAGA successor in 2028. Vance doesn't want to have to put boots on the ground in Ukraine in order to back our mineral deals. All it really does is allows Ukraine to continue to buy weapons from us, which is okay. That's probably better than nothing. but I think Zelensky is right to be pissed that he's effectively getting shafted by one of his allies. So Atlas Crafted say, hey, Counter, we spoke on stream a super long time ago about 40K, but want to say I'm very happy to see you calling the insanity respect. Normally we would disagree politically, but not today. I mean, yeah, listen, the one thing you can count on me for, even if I say something that's stupid or cringe or you don't agree with it, I'm going to call balls and strikes as I see them. It is what it is. Like I keep getting like Rob Noor people who are like, how much are they paying you in order to say these things about Russia and Ukraine? And the answer is $0. I have been paid $0 since the election. I am hating for free. I am hating on the Trump administration with $0 going into my checking account. And guess what changed about my perspective since I was paid versus when I stopped being paid? Nothing. Nothing has stopped. Literally, there are cringe things that Democrats did that I said, hey, that's kind of cringe. Whereas my normal reaction would be to blow my top and call them pieces of shit, right? That's about it. That's literally all that happened, was that I muted some of my criticisms of Democrats because I thought that they were the lesser of two evils. That's what happened when I got paid. Now that I'm not getting paid, my opinions are almost identical. It's crazy. It's crazy how identical it is. Spider-Man says, do you think we could have solved this years ago by not pussyfooting around and going harder with support and promising NATO membership and protection, forcing Russia to fuck off? Yes and no. I don't think there was political capital to do that. If you're talking about just like pragmatic moving chess pieces on a chessboard, sure. But I don't think that there was any support in the United States or the EU or Europe in order to have Ukrainian NATO membership. Bud123 says, you need natural peacekeepers in a ceasefire, not NATO ones that could trigger Article 5 in World War III. I mean, I agree, but who has the stones to actually keep the peace? I don't think anybody has the... You're saying that, but who? What, you're going to send Africans? Africans are less competent than everybody else. I wouldn't trust Africans to keep the peace in eastern Ukraine. Oh, K Soko says, lol, Rob was coping hard over his convo with you. I think he's definitely a wussy. Well, I mean, listen, you know, there are people in his audience that think that he did well in that conversation. I think those people are stupid, but you know, it's a free country / free Western world. You're free to have stupid opinions. But Plain Dane says Denmark. Danish, I would trust Norwegians, but I think they just became a part of NATO. Is Denmark a part of NATO? The key would be to have peacekeepers who aren't NATO. Heard of Baltic oil cores refusing to refuel U.S. Navy ships going forward. Yeah, good. There should be some blowback on us. Like, I don't think we should be destroyed because you need to give us wiggle room in order to come back. But I think there should be some blowback on the United States for what we just did within the past week. So we're going to go to Google Maps first. And I'm kind of I'll keep checking in on chat because this is a conversation, right? But I want to show you guys this. Let me make sure that my shit is in. Okay, so let me show you Google Maps real quick. Okay, I want to explain some things to you, and I hope that you enjoy them if you're a geopolitical nerd. So let me zoom out maximally. This is the maximum. Okay, so this is the United States, all right? This is Canada. This is Greenland. This is what Trump was fighting over a little bit ago, okay? And so this entire territory is largely physically secure. The reason why it's largely physically secure is because this area is populated by a bunch of Hispanic states that have like narco-terrorist organizations in them. But there's no rival in South or Central America that could feasibly take on the United States militarily or economically. Same thing to the north with Canada. They can't take us on militarily or economically. Greenland and Canada might become, we talk about orbiters. If global warming is a thing, look at me, I'm in Florida. If global warming is a thing, you might see us become better orbiters with Greenland and Canada, where we want to spread further north in order to secure ourselves in reference to like global warming and economic and ecological catastrophes and all that kind of stuff. But this is relatively secure. Nobody's invading. And the reason why is because Russia and China are our primary rivals, and taking Alaska or taking the United States is geographically very difficult. So we're safe. Okay. This is what the Make America Great Again people argue, is that we are here. We can do our own thing. We can trade with Eurasia. But we should not be spending endless amounts of money and endless amounts of blood in Eurasia over Eurasian conflicts, because largely we need Eurasia as a trading partner, but we don't need to secure Eurasia in order to secure the United States of America. It's a fairly selfish argument, but it's true, right? So this is Europe, this is Africa, this is Asia, right? Europe, Western Europe is largely secure. Eastern Europe is not. Africa is a mess and will be a mess going forward. Australia is allies, but they also simp for China sometimes. And then India and China don't like each other, so we play them off of each other. But India doesn't trust us, which is fine. They shouldn't trust us, especially if you look at what we just did to Ukraine. So let's zoom in here, okay? This is Russia. This is our biggest rival for the past, I don't know, century, okay? Reason being is because Germany, obviously during World War II, spread out and annexed all these territories and started killing a lot of people, including Jews, in order to give themselves Lebensraum, or living space, so that they could be the dominant power in Europe, okay? They took all of France. They had allies in Italy. They took a healthy chunk of Eastern Europe as well, and they killed the hell out of people. At the same time, Russia took Eastern Europe for itself in order to, ally themselves with Germany temporarily, because socialists and fascists don't like each other. But they effectively split Poland down the middle, and Ukraine became a part of the Soviet Union. Okay. Well, what ended up happening was Germany was like, hey, those communists are a bunch of pussies and we can kill them all. So how about we take over Russia, because their only capital is Moscow, basically, in St. Petersburg. We can take out their two biggest population centers. And then if we take them out, there's no competition in Europe. That was Germany's thought process. That was Hitler's thought process. Well, the problem was that winter, right? Russian winter. And so between Russian winter, scorched earth policies, and guerrilla and mass infantry warfare, the Russians lost like 5x the number of German soldiers, but they inflicted 80% of German casualties during World War II. The United States, in order to screw over fascist Germany, provided a lot of money and material to Russia. That way, communists would kill fascists and it would make our job easier, right? So anyways, World War II ends, but World War II ends with Russia pushing back into Eastern Europe and then taking half of Germany. Matter of fact, I want to pull that up as a map. Let me see. So Google Maps, Soviet Union at its peak map. Okay. So let's take a look at this. Belarus, Ukraine, and Germany. I'm looking for one that's like a little bit that shows more countries. Give me 1 second. You're going to have to humor me. And if you're not into geopolitics and you dip out, like, I'm not going to blame you, but we're talking about geopolitics today, because guess what? We're supposed to be a political channel. So we're supposed to talk about politics sometimes. So let's remove this one and let's share a new one. Soviet Union at its peak. Okay. So whatever, this one. All right. So right here, you can see East Germany, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, Poland, Belarus, Ukraine, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. The reason why this is important is because the Soviet Union at its peak treated all these countries as vassal states. These were all orbiters of Russia, even though they were allegedly an egalitarian alliance of the Soviet Union, right? And so what happened was all of these countries have pretty aggressive resentment towards the Soviet Union, and there's good reasons why. Let's go to this one. Oh, sorry, I never shared it. My bad. That's okay, though. Red and gray beard looks dope. Thank you. Let me make sure you guys can see this. So looking at the World War II casualties, okay, just doing a very brief overview. An estimated 4 million civilians died in Ukraine during World War II and the German occupation. This has included up to 1 million Jews who were murdered by Nazi forces. And then it's also estimated that I think it's around 2.5 million were killed at the front. So 2 million Ukrainians died fighting Nazi Germany on behalf of the Soviet Union. So there's actually like a pretty long, proud, militaristic history in Ukraine for their service during the Soviet Union against Germany. But what ended up happening, let me make sure you guys can see this, is something called the Holodomor, which was in the wake of, well, I guess during 1932 and 1933, the Soviet Union, when it commanded Ukraine, it effectively prioritized the grain leaving Ukraine over the population that was local. So right now, 6.6% of the Ukrainian population died as a result of this enforced starvation. And Belarus grew by 17%. And hold on, Russia increased its population by 17%, and Belarus grew by 12%. So that basically means that the Soviet Union deprioritized the Ukrainians, and they died of starvation. 7% of them died of starvation. Meanwhile, the grain went to these other two countries, and as a result, there is some, let's call it ethnic resentment between Russia and Ukraine for enforced starvation under the Soviet Union. Right? Then, let's not forget the Chernobyl disaster. There's an excellent series on HBO where in 1986, Soviet incompetence led to a nuclear disaster in Ukraine that threatened all of Europe. So you can read about the incompetence, you can watch the incompetence, but what happened is they basically had a meltdown that they ignored for prolonged periods that resulted in one of the greatest nuclear disasters in history that irradiated a large portion of Ukraine and threatened to irradiate all of Europe. One of the main problems with this, or one of the main reasons why I bring this up, is because when you see Russian drones exploding on Ukrainian reactors, what they're telling the Ukrainians is, hey, we already irradiated your country once. We could do it on purpose again if we wanted to. That's what they're saying. They're saying, like, we're not going to go that far. We're not going to irradiate your country, but we could if we wanted to. So if you see a little drone blowing up on the outside of a nuclear reactor, it's Russians being absolute, I'm just going to say it, cunts about the nuclear threat. All right. So the reason why I point out that Russians are cunts, excuse my French, is as an example of why they're just monstrous assholes. They're early in the conflict. There was a fundraiser effort by myself and Dylan Burns. We got money for the Ukrainians for non-lethal services. And we also, we're trying to provide as much support as possible. Well, we gave some money to a gentleman who was living in Lviv, who was taking in refugees. Lviv is in Western Ukraine. And so what happened, because the Russians are just a-holes, is they just missiled this civilian city for no reason and killed a family of like 5 for no reason. Literally, there's no military advantage. There's no strategic advantage. There's no tactical advantage. The only thing they wanted to do was scare the piss out of Ukrainian civilians. And so they bombed Lviv, despite it not being strategically important at all, and they killed a family of 5. Pretty infuriating. If you want to take a look at this is Ukrainian Anna. She's a DGGer. I'm going to add her to the screen real quick. Miss Anna, I believe, lives around Kharkiv. So she lives in eastern Ukraine. And if you want to literally watch videos of her hiding in her house as she gets exploded, Ukrainian Anna. This is probably her hiding in the hallway getting missiled. These are news stories about her city getting missiled. These are statistics about the Ukrainian war. Here's volunteers and militiamen that she supports with money. This is body armor that DGG probably bought. Here's some of the apartment buildings and buildings that have been exploded. Here's a drone that she's giving to the local militia. And so you have to understand, like, this, to us, this might as well be Narnia, but to her, this is every single day, right? This is a place that she lives in every single day that just gets randomly missile striked by Russians who want to scare the piss out of Ukrainians. Matter of fact, why don't we just take a look and see what this video is? I'm assuming she's sharing it for a reason, right? So we got the air siren alarms going off. We got a civilian standing here. She's probably so used to the missile strikes. Oh, it's not going to hit me. It's not going to hit me. We got all the cars hanging out. The missile strike was right here. Hits an apartment building, rains debris down into this person. So this is in the same city that Ukrainian Anna is in, right? Just another hospital. Hospital Russians attacked with a ballistic missile in Zaporozhye, killed 11 people, many more injured. So this isn't the same city, but this is a hospital that the Russians hit with a ballistic missile because they felt like it, right? In 2014, the Russians invaded. I don't need to share that. You kind of know it. Actually, no, I need to share the map. Where is it? Here it is. The 2014 invasion was the first invasion. And this is where they took Crimea. So taking a look at the map, we have them taking the Donbass. So when you hear them say Donetsk and Luhansk, they're talking about this eastern territory. They took this southeastern region and they took Crimea. Okay. This was the 2014 invasion where a bunch of allegedly militiamen and volunteers in these territories showed up and took over the territory. However, they were all wearing Russian equipment. So they're basically Russian soldiers who are pretending to be local militia who took, 10 to 15% of Ukraine, claiming to be local. Now, these areas are majority ethnic Russian, and they speak Russian, and they have been in some level of conflict with the central government. So, you can make an argument for Russia wanting to control these territories, but that doesn't change the fact that they invaded another sovereign nation, their neighbor, right? Let's get caught up to 2022. Share screen, 2022. And I promise we'll watch the Zelensky chat in a moment, and maybe we'll do some drama afterwards, but I want to actually do some hard politics. So here in 2022, this is how bad it actually got. Okay. This is Kyiv, or Kiev, as I used to pronounce it. This is the capital of the country. Here's the Dnipro River that cuts the country in half, right? During the peak of the 2022 invasion, there were Russian forces surrounding Kyiv. There were Russian forces that had claimed a majority of northeastern Ukraine. There were Russian forces in Kharkiv. There were Russian forces that were threatening to break out in Donetsk and Luhansk. There were Russian forces who had pushed past Zaporozhye and were pushing into southern Ukraine. So this was all hanging on a knife's edge. This was actually really precarious. Everyone who's a Russian simp is like, oh, well, if they wanted to take Ukraine, they could have at any moment. This says otherwise. They tried to take Ukraine and they failed. The forces that were surrounding Kyiv were repulsed. The forces that were in the southern part of the country were fought back down to south of Kherson. And then the forces that took northeastern and eastern Ukraine were fought back to approximately their current borders. So whenever you hear a Russian say like, oh, Russians could win at any moment. No, they can't. If they could have, they would have. Okay. So now where does that leave us today? Okay. Let's take a look at the current map as it stands right now, because this would be the basis for any negotiations, right? Let's make sure we add it to the screen. So this is a live map, live UA map. It documents Ukrainian and Russian forces and where they are right now. We currently have, it looks like the incursion into Kursk that the Ukrainians did as a show of Russian weakness. It looks like that has been repulsed, I think, or repelled. So somewhere around here is Kursk. I'm looking, here, this oblast. So it looks like the Ukrainians went in here in order to just show that they could technically take Russian territory and the Russians couldn't do anything about it. It looks like they retreated back to their border. So that's no longer a chip that they have to play. When it comes to Russian holdings in the east, they're still holding out in Luhansk and Donetsk. They took Mariupol and south of Kherson, earlier in the war, but they're still holding that territory. And the Ukrainians are, relatively speaking, holding this border with trenches and mechanized warfare. Now, it was my understanding that the Ukrainians had taken back the city of Kherson, but it looks like the southern banks are still in Russian occupied territory. So they haven't taken back this territory yet, which is what I would have wanted to see. The United States supported a Ukrainian offensive last year that didn't go anywhere. And so that's disappointing. What I would have liked to have seen, and I think what a lot of people would have liked to have seen, is effectively a split where the Ukrainian mechanized infantry and mechanized warriors push down into Melitopol, split the Russian forces in this district, and then took back this territory south of Kherson and took back this territory with Mariupol and this territory outside. So what Trump wants to do, okay, this kind of brings us into the modern. Bud123 says they still control portions of Kursk if I zoom in. Okay, cool. Well, we still have a pretty good idea of where they're at, right? Where, let's just say, let's see if that's true. Okay, yeah, but it was my understanding that they controlled the entire oblast. They had made it up to this city, like central Kursk, and this has so many highways crisscrossing it that they effectively had cut the oblast off, and any Russian forces wishing to get into the south had to drive past this area and cut around. That was at least what, Ukrainian forces and Ukrainian allies were claiming at the time. So if they're holding a portion of the oblast, but it's just this city, that's cool. God bless these guys. But, that's not what they were originally holding, right? Anyways, point being that Trump allegedly wants to negotiate a ceasefire, not a peace treaty, a ceasefire, where we freeze the borders as they currently are, and then the United States gets $500 billion in oil, gas, and mineral rights from Ukraine. So far, we've given them around $200 billion in material and cash. And so this would guarantee that going forward, we would have an economic incentive to continue to support Ukraine militarily. Now, the reason why Kyiv, the central government, and Zelensky is so pissed about this is because there's no security guarantees and they have to stop fighting. As far as they know, the Russians are just as tired as they are. And while they might not be able to take back Donetsk, Luhansk, and Crimea, they could have a breakthrough in Zaporozhye at any moment because the Russians are just as tired as the Ukrainians, right? And so they're effectively telling the Ukrainians to stop fighting and freeze the borders where they are. They can't fight in the future. They can only fight defensively. And then there's no security guarantee. So if Russia reinvades, if Russia tries to take Kyiv again, if Russia tries to expand their breakthrough in the south, then the United States isn't going to do anything. NATO isn't going to do anything. Europe isn't going to do anything except for continue to sell weapons to Kyiv, right? So Zelensky thinks this is a bullshit deal. It, relatively speaking, is, but he's in a terrible position for negotiation. He doesn't have any leverage, right? Poland, in my understanding, limited understanding, Poland is a member of NATO. Latvia is a member of NATO. Estonia is a member of NATO. Lithuania is a member of NATO. Finland, I think, either just became a member of NATO or they were thinking about it. Pretty sure Sweden joined. So hold on. Let's just double check our facts, okay? Did Finland join NATO? Finland joined the alliance on the 74th anniversary of the signing of the Washington Treaty. And as the 31st ally, what date did Finland join? What date did Finland join NATO? They became a NATO member April of 2023. So as a result of Russia's invasion, the rest of Eastern Europe is relatively secure. So because if you invade one NATO member, it triggers Article 5, which is effectively war with all NATO members, right? But Ukraine is stuck because we got here we go. That's Belarus. They're Russian Sims. Here we go. We got Warsaw. We got Poland over here. Sorry, the letters all threw me up. But we basically have this wall right here of anti-Russian sentiment, right? So that's kind of my my introduction, I guess. But this is what pisses me off about these people, right? The people who are, in my opinion, stabbing Ukraine in the back. And I will check out some chat questions in a second. But what pisses me off about the people who are stabbing Ukraine in the back is that United States is supposed to value things that we care about that unite us as free people. Okay? We're supposed to care about the freedom of conscience and freedom of speech. Now, our European allies don't value that the same way that we value it, but you have to imagine that freedom of speech and freedom of conscience is better in Western Europe than it is in, let's say, North Korea, Russia, or China, right? So it's a spectrum, it's a curve, but freedom of conscience, right? Due process of government, a government not being corrupt and actually taking the interests of its people at heart as it's operating and using democratic and Republican systems in order to represent their people so they carry out the people's will. That is something that Europe cares about. That is something that the United States cares about. We hold elections about this all the time. And Russia has effectively been ruled by one man for the better part of 20 or 30 years. Putin has been rotating between, I believe, the position of like prime minister, president, and vice president for the past 20 years. They've had one president. So we have all these people who are like, well, Ukraine isn't holding elections. Ukraine is a dictatorship. Ukraine doesn't have freedom of speech. Ukraine doesn't have this. Ukraine doesn't have that. When you actually dig into the speech limitations in Ukraine right now, they're effectively limiting pro-Russian propaganda. Okay? Then when it comes to Zelensky not stepping down, I like elections, but is like the United Kingdom during World War II under Churchill, was that a dictatorship because Churchill stayed in power for a decade? Was the United States a dictatorship during FDR's reign because he won 3 terms? Like, no, obviously not. It's on a spectrum. So if we have Ukraine that's trying to come our way, they're trying to improve their freedom of speech. They're trying to improve their freedom of conscience. They're trying to reduce corruption in their government. They're trying to join us economically through the European Union. They're trying to join us militarily because they want to become a part of NATO. We should welcome that with open arms. And the argument that, well, they're on Russia's doorstep, therefore Russia would be, should be upset and they can invade Ukraine because they feel like it. That equally applies to Lithuania. That equally applies to Estonia. That equally applies to Finland. That equally applies to Sweden next to Finland. So no, this logic doesn't fly. And not only that, NATO is a defensive alliance. There is no plan by NATO to preemptively invade Russia in order to prevent their invasion of Eastern Europe. However, there is a plan that if Russia invades any NATO country, then we will respond as one because Russia cannot stand up to the combined might of Europe and the United States. And so this geopolitical power that, in my estimation, because I am a Republican, I do care about a republic. I do care about freedom of speech. I do care about freedom of conscience. I do care about limited government. I do care about the right to self-defense, up to and including against your government. I think these are universal human goods that we should be promoting. I think that inside it's just like Full Metal Jacket, except for unironic. There was this general who said inside every Vietnamese person, he does say the word gook, but inside every Vietnamese person is an American waiting to get out. I believe that shit. Inside every Ukrainian, there is a Ukrainian trying to get out, but there's a free Ukrainian trying to get out. A Ukrainian who is more similar to an American than he is similar to Russian. So freedom of speech and freedom of conscience are not good because the United States says that it's good. It's good because it's a universal human good. The right to self-defense up to and including against a tyrannical government is not good because the United States says it's good. It's because it's a universal human good. A republic, a rule of laws, the rule of law, minimal corruption, and representative democracy are good because they're universal human goods, not just because the United States says so. So I am hostile to the alleged patriots who are taking America back right now, but they don't believe that the values that make the United States of America good are universal human goods. They think they're local goods. They think that freedom of conscience, freedom of speech, and the right to self-defense is only good in the United States, and it's not good for Ukraine, and it's not good for Russia. I think they're pussies, and I think they're cowards, and I think they're weak and stupid. And the reason why I believe that is because you effectively have Ukrainians begging us to continue the fight and to negotiate better terms, and we won't do it for them. This is, to finish the thought, and then I'll respond to chat. This is, I hate being right, by the way. I hate being right. It makes my stomach churn what we're doing right now. But during the election, I had Republicans, MAGA Republicans, come to me, and they had what to me was an emotionally compelling argument, even if it wasn't a logically compelling argument. They said, the Democrats chip away at free speech. They said the Democrats chip away at the Second Amendment. They said the Democrats have weaponized your belief about the Fourth Amendment in due process, and they've weaponized different elements of government that you know about in order to play nepotism and cronyism for the benefit of the Democrats and the Democrats only. And they are using your values as a Republican against you because they view you as a useful idiot. And I said, just because my principles make them perceive me as a useful idiot doesn't disavow my principles. And so if MAGA is going to take all those principles and throw them out the window, they are a worse enemy to me than the Democrats, because the Democrats are chipping away at my values. MAGA doesn't even believe in my values, right? And so now we have the president of the United States effectively threatened to invade Greenland in order to take it. He forgot about that 30 seconds later. Threatened to invade Panama for America's benefit. He forgot about that 30 seconds later. The price of groceries is not going down. And if anything, we're imposing tariffs that are going to make the cost of goods sold at all of our local stores go up. We are betraying our European allies, and we're screwing over people who are actively trying to come our way in order to live their lives in line with what our American principles. We're screwing these people over. We are fucking them. We are stabbing them in the back. And so I have nothing but contempt for the people who said that I was a traitor, that I was a liar, that I was a grifter, that I was a piece of shit for standing up for these values during the election cycle. And they are effectively setting those principles on fire and pissing on the ashes in front of me, and they're laughing about it. So I have nothing but contempt and anger towards these people. That is my preliminary Ukrainian segment. I'm going to address chat, and then we are going to watch a little bit of Zelensky and Trump freak out on each other. Okay. All right, I'm going to scroll up and see if there's any at counterfire chats. Playing Dane says Denmark. Yeah, let's go ahead and Google that real quick. Why not? Google. Is Denmark a part of NATO? Is Denmark in NATO? Denmark's a member of NATO. That wouldn't work. Sorry. Heard a Baltic oil core. Yep, that's where we were at. So a Baltic oil core is refusing to refuel U.S. Navy ships. I don't want the Europe and the United States to be enemies, but I do want us to work together to achieve a common good right now. Maybe Europe does need to shoulder more of the burden of European security. That's okay, but we don't have to screw over. We don't have to screw over Ukraine in order to achieve that result. Spider-Man says, F. Rob Noor, I respect his nurse care work, but his last debate with you was such a miserable showing, laughing at dying Africans and Ukrainians, going hard on saying you lacked morals, etc. That's how I felt. I was pretty angry. I called him the F slur several times, and it's because he was laughing about Africans and Ukrainians dying and then being like, well, didn't you cheer on all the Iraqis dying? And it's like, I don't cheer on the Iraqis dying, but I do think that Republican values are universal human goods. And therefore, if we're trying to promote them on the world stage, that is better to the alternative. Atlas Crafted says, India has been pulling some sneaky stuff in Canada recently. I'm not surprised. That it's probably for economic benefit, not for more. Are you going to ignore the role of U.S. globalists on the issue? No. You can go ahead and tell me what your beef is, and then I'll explain my position. Andrew Pear says, nothing on screen. My apologies. Connor, just a black screen. Yeah, sorry if during that rant I didn't pull up everything I wanted to talk about. My bad. The only good Anna. True. Hey, at Counterfire. Hi, Alex Kirsch. They took over Crimea without a fight. They already had a naval base in Crimea, so a few bribes and they take over Crimea. Well, to be honest, just responding to that, I think that Crimea is going to be a permanent Russian holding. I wouldn't be surprised if Donetsk and Luhansk are permanent Russian holdings. So, yeah. Triple Think says, sup, Connor? What's up? Yeah, they way overstretched their supply lines. Yeah, listen, they went for it and they didn't commit and they lost substantial amounts of territory. Blood123 says the Russians can't take Western Ukraine because if they tried, they would face an insurgency. That is not true, Connor. Ukraine still controls some of Kursk. We addressed that earlier. We took a look at the map. Ukraine is losing ground faster and faster every month for the last year. Let's take a look at it. I love that. Ukraine. Let's do it. Google. Let's go to google.com because we trust the deep state around here. Ukraine losing territory faster in 2024. Ukraine has lost 10 square miles in the Kursk Oblast. Oh, they lost Russian territory. Amazing. Two maps showing which areas of eastern Ukraine are under Russian military control and limited control February 12th, 2025. All right, so this is the map that shows... No way, bro. Wow. I'm going to show this to you. This is why this propaganda fucking doesn't do shit to me. Seriously. So we have somebody in chat, probably good faith, right? They're sharing this with us because they want us to be not to be shills for the internationalist globalist elite. Okay? Bear in mind, the United States took all of Iraq in like a month. Okay? In 3 years of conflict, in 1 year, Russians have advanced 25 miles outside of the city of Pokrovsk in eastern Ukraine, which is a part of the Donetsk, Donbass region, which has been their goal their entire time. And the advance that you're pointing to, probably a third of it has limited Russian control. No offense, buddy, but this is not impressive. Oh, and then around Kharkiv, claimed Russian territory, they've advanced, what, like 5 miles? Buddy, this is what they had in the beginning of 2022. This is what you're claiming is a positive sign for Russian control. I'm sorry, I'm not buying it. You can buy it if you want. There's this entire argument of like contrarianism within like the centrist movement in the anti-Ukraine movement, where they're the truth tellers. They're the people who understand things better than us. They're the ones who actually understand the casualty numbers better than what's being published in the mainstream media. And yet we go look at what you're talking about that's supposed to be evidence of like Russian domination, and it's a 25-mile advance over the course of a year. Okay. All this is in context of what was supposed to be a 3-day special military operation. Yeah, literally. Like the Russians in their sims will say, we never said 3 days. We never said 3 days. We never said 3 days. But all you have to do is go find the 3-day compilation. And there's Russian people who are like, Ukraine is going to welcome us with open arms. They are going to embrace us. It's going to take us 2 or 3 days for all of Ukraine to fall. And it's just commentator after commentator after commentator after commentator saying the exact same thing. Baloney. I say baloney. De oppresso liber. I mean, I feel that way sometimes. And then I see back when Miley Cyrus was a thing, I see Miley Cyrus with a strap on dancing on stage, and I'm like, you know what? We can let Western civilization fall. This is degenerate enough that I'm okay with Russia and China controlling the world. Then I remember that Ukrainians are actually fighting for basic human rights, and I'm like, maybe we shouldn't let the entire world fall to crap. Christian Blair says, while gaslighting the rest of us. I mean, that's how I feel. I feel lied to. I feel lied to every day. I feel like I log into Twitter and I see these morons saying insane crap that's just guzzled by tens of thousands of people. Mithridates says, we want peace and resources. We can't make Ukrainians free and liberty-loving Americans. Most of Europe and U.S. is failing liberty and conservative. I think you're an idealist and me a realist. I don't agree at all. I don't agree at all. So I'm not saying all of Ukraine, by the way. Let's actually go ahead and share my centrist view of things. So let's go to Ukraine. Let's share the map. I think I'm a realist as well. So right now, Crimea is one of 2 warm water ports, and Russia wants it. They will fight tooth and nail for this. Even if Ukraine had enough military personnel to take back Crimea, Russia would fight for that tooth and nail. Okay. So this, in my opinion, is Russian territory at this point. Okay. Might as well be Russian territory. They will fight for it as if it is Russian holy ground. Okay. When it comes to Donetsk and Luhansk, these are also Russian majority ethnic areas that broke away from the Republic of Ukraine. And they there doesn't seem to be a lot of insurgent action in these areas. They seem to want to be a part of Russia. So I would draw the lines around the Donetsk Oblast and the Luhansk Oblast, and I would cut those out and I would give those to Russia for the current peace treaty. However, it seems that Mariupol was only taken after very heavy fighting, if you remember it. And there are a lot of ethnic Ukrainians here who seem to want to be a part of Ukraine. And not just that, this is a majority of the Ukrainian coastline. And I think Ukraine has a right to its own coastline. So what I would say is that the Ukrainians give back whatever part of Kursk they took. Russia can take Luhansk and Donetsk. The Russians concede Zaporozhye, Melitopol, Mariupol, and south of Kherson. We negotiate some kind of deal where Russians are permitted to drive to Crimea along this highway, but nowhere else. They're not allowed in the rest of Ukraine. They can drive to Crimea, or if the Ukrainians don't like that, then they can drive the long way, but they still have access to Crimea. And then basically, Ukraine gets some kind of security guarantee from NATO or becomes a NATO member, where if Russia invades again and they violate these borders, then at that point, that triggers like whatever Western Europe wants to do, whatever the United States wants to do, if Russia leaves Donetsk, Luhansk, or Crimea, we can basically go whole hog. So I think that's a very pragmatic outlook. It's something that a lot of Ukrainians wouldn't be happy with. Jimmy Bean says, you're gaslighting yourselves. They negotiated a deal during a press conference. The entire world was watching. Zelensky decided to say there should be no deal without security guarantees. Jimmy Bean, I'm trying to see who you're saying is gaslighting themselves. If Ukraine is getting, in their opinion, a dog shit deal because there's no security guarantees, and then while they're on the verge of signing the deal, they say, hey, this is actually a dog shit deal, and then the deal explodes, how are the pro-Ukrainians the ones who are gaslighting themselves? The pro-Ukrainians are the people who are saying that Trump is trying to force Ukraine to sign a dog shit deal because they're saying dog shit deal or no deal, right? That's what MAGA is saying. MAGA is saying, give us $500 billion worth of minerals with no security guarantee. That way we get paid back the $200 billion we already gave you and we'll continue to sell you weapons. Or you can go fuck yourself. That's the MAGA deal right now. And Ukrainians and Ukrainian supporters are saying that's a dog shit deal. So I don't know if you're on my side or somebody else's side, but I don't agree with your assessment. Or I'm confused and probably don't agree with this statement if you're saying that this side is the one gaslighting themselves. Triple Think says, my biggest fear is that MAGA and others all over the world will push things so far that the left will respond in kind with an equally radical thing. Maybe. Diggy Boy says, do you see any way to peacefully resolve this divide? I don't. I mean, literally the deal that I just said. The deal where Russia gets Donetsk, Luhansk, and Crimea, and then we sign a new security deal where this is the border now. That's fine. We could, and you know what we could do too? We don't even have to have a security deal. We could say we are going to give Ukraine nukes. There you go. The United Kingdom has nukes. France has nukes. Russia has nukes. Israel has nukes. So basically what we'll do is we'll hand Ukraine a nuclear gun because they used to have nuclear weapons. We'll say, these are the borders now. Here's a nuke Ukraine. If Russia invades and if they threaten you with nuclear weapons, then you can effectively glass Moscow. That seems fair to me. Lactoid says, a counterfire, what are your thoughts about Euromaidan unconstitutionally removing a Russian-aligned democratically elected president? I would have to actually analyze all of this shit, and I'm sure Dylan Burns would jump down your fucking throat and kick you in the fucking dick and balls for that. So, Euromaidan, democratically elected president. If I remember correct, the narrative, because bear in mind this is a decade ago now, they elected that president, and then there were pro-democratic protests against the Russian-backed president because instead of going to the EU, Russia basically clicked their fingers or snapped their fingers, and that guy just went right back into Russia's orbit. So a bunch of people in Kyiv who were pro-EU started protesting, and then the cops started shooting people, and then after they started shooting people, the people started rioting, and then they threw out that president. So that's what I would say. Why is Trump such a submissive pussy when he's dealing with Putin? It's because he likes Putin. That's why. Easy. Jimmy Bean says, every single Libyot in this chat will talk big and say they stand with Ukraine, except how to achieve victory without direct involvement. Then tell me why you would want to protest another American war. I mean, I think I just said what I would see as a fair deal. I don't know what you're talking about. Ukraine has been losing territory faster and faster for 3 years now. Laugh my ass off. Yeah, somebody put that in quotes and said, laugh my ass off. Well, I mean, I literally just looked at it. 25 miles in the course of a year. Wow. Amazing. Russia's doing so good on their 3-year-long, 3-day military operation. Stamwow says, it's comical how little Russia is taking considering the time and casualties. I agree. This war sees a lot of comparisons with the Winter War. I wouldn't be surprised. John Small says, do you seriously believe that Russia is a bigger threat to individual freedoms than the globalist governors, which are criminalizing dissent and opening the borders in the West? Yes. Yes, you fucking moron. Yes, John Small. Yes. You know why? Because I can still say faggot on YouTube. I can still say the N-word on YouTube. I'll just choose not to right now. I can still talk shit about Donald Trump. I can still talk shit about JD Vance. I can still talk shit about Elon Musk. If you go to Russia and you talk shit about Putin, or if you even protest, then cops show up and they throw you in a fucking jail without charges. Yes, there's a substantive difference between that and the other thing. And then also, the reason why you're wrapped up in a fucking tizzy is because you've seen UK fucking people getting arrested for saying that they hate Pakistanis on Facebook. Okay? Guess what? I wish that they could say that they hated Pakistanis on Facebook. I think that it would be a good thing if they said that they could hate Pakistanis on Facebook. But getting a $500 fine versus being disappeared in a Russian jail are different things. And you would be able to tell that if you fucking thought for 30 seconds. Excuse me. Did you see that M. Brennan free speech Nazi comment on 60 Pro censorship? No, I didn't. Let's not forget that Russia has suffered over 850,000 casualties and lost over 10,000 tanks in 3 years. Even if you cut those numbers in half, that's still infinitely worse than the entire war on terror. We lost like 3,000 people or like 10,000 people over the course of like 2 decades in the war on terror. And we got Russians saying it's no big deal to lose 500,000 people. Sorry, I got so pissed off I actually got like burpy and thought I was going to have a heart attack. My apologies. It's a special military operation, not a war. N2, the war is to protect Russian speakers and have them join Russia. And N3, NATO started the war. Yeah, literally. You could have 3 consistent arguments, right? I highly doubt Putin wants any more than the pro-Russia territories. He would want to leave a buffer between NATO. Okay. Latvia and Estonia and Lithuania are on Moscow's doorstep. Doesn't change anything. Ukraine is never getting Crimea or Donbass back. Russia should surrender, pay reparations, open up their oil pipeline for Europe again. I don't think that's going to happen, but it could. Do you think Trump and or Vance blew that up intentionally? We'll watch it in a minute. Weapons don't mean anything without a follow-up. I agree. Russia used to have, or Ukraine used to have nukes, says Andrew Paris. Yep. Stevie Jones says it's not even really about land for Russia. Putin wants a puppet government. He can control a small Ukrainian army like Belarus has and no foreign troops there. That's why all deals are doomed. I agree. Exactly. That's all that's needed. We had them surrender them with a promise that we would protect them. Obviously, we didn't hold up the deal. I agree. Lactoid is wrong. Probably. Lactoid TV. That president ordered protesters killed via gunfire and then dipped out. I agree. Mithridaty for 50 secs says, warmapper.dot.org/stats. Most of UA held ground in Russia is lost. Several times larger area lost in UA. It's slow, sure, but accelerating. Cheers anyways. Well, thank you for the donation, even if we disagree. Ellen Degenerate says, at counterpoints, Russia is worse because they are the ones funding the right-wing governments in the West. Okay. The democratically elected president broke his promise to align himself with the EU and tried to pass laws banning protests, so people were mad. Thank you, Mr. Bombastic. You summarized it better than I did. It's also ironic considering conservatives support the Russia censorship laws and want to implement such here. Not surprised. John Small says, nice response, tough guy. You're a joke. Amp it up all you want. You're still full of it. Okay, yeah. So you were criticizing the pro-Ukrainian position. So here's the thing. I want you guys to remember this, all right? The tough guy thing, right? The internet keyboard warrior thing, right? So the keyboard warrior meme is supposed to apply to people who talk big on social media but have never done anything in real life. Right? That's what the keyboard warrior meme is supposed to be about, right? But here's the thing. I'm going to toot my own horn because I worked hard in order to be able to toot my own horn. I did 4 years in the Marine Corps. Now, that is, being a pogue, a person other than grunt in the Marine Corps, isn't necessarily the most hardcore thing in the military. But out of the branches, I would say that the Marine Corps has the fiercest reputation. And I would say that there are plenty of civilians who would not want to spend a day as a Marine, let alone 4 years as a Marine, right? I spent 4 years as a Marine. I stayed in Japan for 2 years. I did not enjoy my time in Japan. Japan was effectively minimum security prison. I deployed to Iraq from Japan, and I spent 7 months and change in a supply role in Western Iraq immediately during the Sunni awakening. So basically, we had a bunch of Sunni militias come over to our side when I was deployed. Right? So I'm not hardcore, but I spent time in cans that could have been shelled at any moment. And there were people who got injured and killed while I was over there. Right? So I'm not saying that I'm personally hardcore. I'm saying that I was put in a hardcore situation and I didn't snap. Right? Then I went back to California. I had a good time in California. I got out and I recovered from my military service mentally. Then I spent 4 years in law enforcement. And law enforcement was pretty hardcore because I'm a really sensitive guy. I like people. I care about people. I can meet people, and as long as they seem decent, I can care about them instinctively because I like human beings in general, even though I don't say that often on the internet. I had somebody murdered in front of me uh, on my first day of my third phase of training, and that person died in my arms. I held their gunshot wounds with my hand as they died. And then I had to go talk to their girlfriend and who was still there and watched me hold them as they died. And I had to tell them that they were gone. Right. That was my first day of my third phase of training, meaning that I could have quit. I could have left. I could have said, this is too much. I don't want to do this. I'm out. But I didn't. I said, you're not a pussy. You did all this training. You said you wanted to do the hardcore shit. Let's go do the hardcore shit. So then 4 years later, I've cleared rooms. I've arrested burglars. I've arrested rapists. I've arrested, not for murder, but I arrested murderers, people who had killed people in the past. I've gone up against drug lieutenants. I've gone up against people who are accused murderers and drug organization folks. I've had people tell me that they were going to kill me, kill my family. And I just got up every single day and I put on a gun belt and I went out into a town that was mostly safe, but there was hardcore shit going on. Yes, I am. So there was hardcore shit going on. So when you come into my chat, right? And John Small, I have no idea what your background is, but you're like, oh, you talk big on the internet, but you're a fucking pussy. It's like, fuck you. What did you do? Right? Were you in the military? Were you in the infantry? Were you in law enforcement? Were you in emergency medical services? Are you a doctor? Are you an emergency room technician? Because those would be the kind of people that I would say, okay, they have just as much hardcore experience as me. So when they talk, I'm going to take what they say with a little bit of extra oomph because they've seen and done hardcore shit. Right? They have nothing to do with the issue. John Small, let me scroll up. Nice response, tough guy. You're a joke. I think your geopolitical analysis sucks. So if your geopolitical analysis sucks and then you say, oh, you're such a tough guy, I'm obviously going to respond to that. So do you have a counter to your geopolitical analysis sucks? Because I think your geopolitical analysis sucks. Destron5150 says, what made you quit? Having a kid, to be honest. So there was, when I was wrapping up on patrol, it's probably the last 6 months I was on patrol, I had a crack baby, literally, like the mom was addicted to cocaine. But you called me a fag first. Okay, well, my apologies. I just, a little heated. All right. So my apologies. I'm sorry for calling you a fag. So I quit because the last 6 months that I was on the road, I had, there was other hardcore stuff that happened. Like I've seen accidents, I've seen dead bodies, I've seen this, I've seen that. But if I'm being honest with myself, one of the things that kind of like broke me mentally was I had a baby, like a newborn, die from cocaine addiction. The mom was a coke addict. She abandoned the child with a grandparent. Grandparent was feeding him formula. There was something fucked up with his heart. The baby was falling out. They were dying. And nobody in the medical staff wanted to tell the dad that the baby was dying. And so they basically left it up to me to go communicate with the grandpa that a baby that he had cared for like 2 or 3 months was going to die. They didn't, the kid was so weak that they couldn't air flight it. They couldn't air flight the kid to a different hospital that had more complex medical stuff because they knew the kid was going to die in the hospital on the transport. So they were just supporting the kid as they could as he's falling out. And so I had to go tell, the grandpa that he's about to lose a baby because of his daughter's drug addiction. And to me, I didn't process it emotionally at all. Right? I didn't think about it. Like I just did it. I did what I had to do. I talked to him. I held my shit together. But it stuck with me and it fucked me up. Right? So having my own child, I didn't want to deal with things like that and then have to go look my own kids in the eyes. So that's it. That I fought with my wife about it. I didn't really want to leave. I still thought I had good stuff that I could do, but the truth was I was just too fucked up. So there you go. Crack baby. Anyways, back to PTSD from the baby and not the Marines or combat. I got all sorts of things. Don't worry about it. It's all a melange. It's a melange of psychological issues. Don't worry about it. But let's do this. Let's get to probably towards the end of the meeting where they start fighting. And let's do that. Probably like the last 10 minutes. Let's watch that. Okay, I've never heard you explain why you left, but yeah, that's wild. Yeah, well, that's like, and by the way, guys, that's like one of a dozen things. That's like one thing. Okay. So I can think of my kid and I can think of the crack baby, but I had all sorts of other fucked up shit happen. I had animal abuse and I had murders and I had people tell me that they were going to kill me and kill my family. I had times that I wanted to kill them. There were people that I pulled my gun on. There were murderers that I caught. There were, meth heads that threatened to murder their moms and all sorts of crazy shit. So like, I can bring that story to you. So hopefully it's like obvious enough, like, okay, that's pretty fucked up. Like I get why he wouldn't want to do that anymore. I can bring that to you, but there's like another dozen things that I could tell you about. I just don't want to bore you to death. Triple Think says, what's your excuse for choosing to be an Emperor cuck instead of choosing base Xenos races? No. I appreciate Xenos. So the Imperium, I'm obviously going to love the Imperium because I'm a human supremacist, but the Dark Eldar have redeeming qualities. The Necrons have redeeming qualities. The Eldar have redeeming qualities. I think they're just a little pussy. Tau can be interesting. I think they're just too noble bright. So orcs are awesome. I should be painting an orc army. But anyways. John Small says, my main point is that globalists manipulated the war and they are more of a threat than Putin. They control many of our government and media. Putin only has a small part of Ukraine. So John Small, I don't like or trust your political analysis because even in Europe, right? So let's say that you, an American citizen, travel to the United Kingdom in order to become a United Kingdom citizen, right? You can say, because Douglas Murray does this, you can say, I think that Islam is incompatible with Europe and that we should not be taking mass immigration from the Middle East and North Africa, right? You can say that. What you can't say is Pakistanis are smelly, dirty, disgusting, cousin fucking pieces of shit, and I wish that we could kill them all and throw them into the ocean. If you say that, in the United States, you could say that. And maybe like the cops would knock on your door, but they'd be like, yeah, free speech. Go on your racist rant about how you want to murder Pakistanis, right? In the UK, they would say that is an offense against the well-being the general public of the United Kingdom. Therefore, we're going to take you to jail and you're going to get a $500 fine, right? So you can say that that's bad. I agree that's bad. I like freedom of speech and I like freedom of conscience. But if you go to Russia, by comparison, or North Korea or Iran, and you say, I don't like the government, then what's going to happen is those guys are going to show up to your house. They're going to zip tie you. They're going to throw you in a fucking dungeon. None of your family is going to be able to talk about you, or else they'll go to the dungeon too. And then they just starve you to death or kill you over the course of like a few years. So, you can say the globalists are a threat. The Euro-cuck perspective on speech is a threat to the Western world. I'll, relatively speaking, agree with you. But these societies are way more free than you're giving them credit for. And it's not enough to betray them in favor of Russia. Dark Eldar. I just like space pirates. Necrons, I think, are awesome. I'll defend Necrons to the day I die. Mithridates says, I was with you on the Pakistanis until you said kill them all. Jesus. Blood123 says, Arab Muslims are fine if they can live among people and are okay with liberalism. It's the fundamentalists that are the problem. Well, yeah, but then you have a shitload of fundamentalists, right? So it's a mixed bag, right? So John Small, I think you've been swimming, sorry for calling you the F slur, but I think you've been swimming in hyper-conservative Tim Pool contrarian waters for way too long. But for the sake of continuing content, let's actually watch the last 10 minutes of the Zelensky conference and see what we can see as an issue. Let's share it and I'll come back. So hold on. So let's share the whole screen, I guess. And then I'll add it to the stage and then I'll pull this up. And then I'll just assume that you guys can see me. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's do it.
And it's unfortunate. That's why you're in this situation. The United States, Poland.
What about Baltic?
It's not about me. He hates Ukrainians. He thinks that we are not a nation. He thinks, and he shared these thoughts. I think maybe with your team also, I don't know. But with all the Europeans in media, official and not, he always said that there is no such country, such nation, such language, and such life like Ukrainian. No, he really doesn't respect all the Ukrainians, and he wants to destroy us. And you are right, Mr. President. That's 2%. This document, maybe other documents, it's a very good start, very good, but it will not enough to stop this person.
Should Russia pay to rebuild Ukraine?
Mr. President, under
Should Russia pay to rebuild Ukraine?
They have to pay.
This question.
This is the rule. This is the rule of the war. This is the rule of the war. During all the centuries, all the history, this is the rule of the war. Who began, those pay. This is the rule. Putin began this war. He has to pay all money for innovation. He has to pay. Of course, some Russian assets, what we have in Europe, about 300 billions, we can use them. We can use for innovation and buy military support from the United States also. We can do it, but it's not enough. It's not enough.
So hold on. This is going to be interesting. KOE Nation says, howdy, Connor. How you doing this beautiful Saturday afternoon? I'm getting ready to preach tomorrow morning. God bless. Well, hey, listen, Phil, I know we spar on the internet, and I'm not going to lie. I get frustrated with some of your takes. However, just like Rob, okay, I think that you're probably a very good man. And let me say this. So Rob works a job. He pays his bills. He takes care of disabled people. He loves his wife. He's loyal to his wife. He probably pays his bills and his taxes. I think that makes you a good man, right? If you take care of your responsibilities, you take care of your community, you take care of your family. I think that makes you a good man. I think that Phil probably does those same things as well. But I think that evil people, probably the same way that they believe evil people, are giving people like Phil, people like Rob, talking points that enable other evil people to do horrible shit, right? So they believe that about me. I believe that about them, okay? So, however, I don't think that Rob Noor is a liar. I don't think he says things that he doesn't believe. I think he believes terrible things. And they probably feel the same way. So if we don't say eye to eye, if I trade insults and barbs on Twitter or in a debate, it is personal in a way because some of these things are so abhorrent that I can't pretend that I'm not angry. I am legitimately angry, but that doesn't mean that I don't acknowledge that there's a human being on the other side who's probably doing their best. Now, here's the interesting thing about what's going to happen right now is that this entire thing is Ukrainians allegedly coming to the table with the MAGA State Department in order to sign a minerals deal. Okay. So the minerals deal is Ukraine gives us $500 or $500 billion worth of mineral concessions that are paid out of 50% of Ukraine's revenue. And then we will continue to support them militarily, right? That's the deal. There's no security guarantees. There's no territorial guarantees. It's literally just a deal to continue our economic and military relationship with Ukraine. So I understand why the Ukrainians believe it's a bad deal, but that's what this event is supposed to be, is the signing of this deal. So I can already tell that my preference would be, if Zelensky believed that this is a bad deal and he shouldn't sign it, then he should come out and say that. He should say, I'm not going to the White House because I want to continue to buy Ukrainian weapons, but I think that this is a bad deal that effectively stabs my country in the back. Therefore, I can't go there. Instead, he kind of picked, I would say, the worst of both worlds, where he went there to sign the deal, but he's still arguing his position even after they've allegedly signed the deal. So this is where I could see Trump, because he wants to be viewed as the master. He wants to be viewed as the 4D chess gentleman. I could see him getting frustrated and pissed off unless Zelensky is over here blowing him. And here's some things that might be non-starters already. He's talking about how Putin believes that Ukrainians are not a real country. That's true. He says that this will not be enough to stop. This is just a stopgap. This won't be enough to stop Putin. I think he has every reason in the world to believe that. He can say Putin has started the war, and so he's the one who needs to pay for all the damages. We can use seized assets, but it's not enough. These are all positions in a negotiation. But here's where I would be basically advising Zelensky. I would be like, war is diplomacy by other means. And there's a quote from the Athenians that nobody likes me saying, but I say it anyways, which is, the powerful do what they can and the weak suffer what they must. If Ukraine can't get American or European support to continue to prosecute the war and seize back the territories that they want, then they have to negotiate. So this is actually a weird thing where of course, I view Vance and Trump as backstabbing pieces of shit, but I might actually agree with them that Zelensky might be taking an untenable position. John Small says, okay, fair enough. I really urge everyone to watch the M. Brennan interview with Rubio and her Nazi comment. Also, the 60 Minutes piece on German censorship. Thanks for engaging with my comments. Yeah, Germany has definitely gone way too far, but they didn't sign the deal yet. True. KOE says, I don't take passionate debate personally. These issues warrant our passions. Like you said, we're still all human at the end of the day. Godspeed, sir. Well, thank you. Thank you, buddy. I'll try to be less jumpy and angry in the future. Abby Rhodes says, I don't agree with your position. The problem with the USA is that the past is it has done deals with other countries and then years later pulled out. Zelensky is only ensuring the US won't do that. I agree with you. I think Abby, I agree with you that Zelensky has every reason to distrust the deal. I agree. Let's continue though.
I wouldn't know.
Wait 1 second.
I asked this question that you didn't like because I wanted to know if you want to position yourself in the middle between Russia and Ukraine, or on the Ukraine side.
No, I'm in the middle. I want to solve this thing. I'm for both. I want to get it solved, and it's wonderful to speak badly about somebody else, but I want to get it solved. If we can solve it, great. If we can't solve it, they're going to have to fight it out, and who knows what's going to happen. But I want to see it get solved.
May I follow up? One more question about U.S. troops in Europe. After Russian invasion of Ukraine, your predecessor sent additional troops to Eastern Europe, including Poland, my country.
Yeah.
Are you committed to keeping these troops on the eastern flank of NATO in the future?
I'm very committed to Poland. I think Poland has really stepped up and done a great job for NATO. They, as you know, they paid more than they had to. They are one of the finest groups of people I've ever known. I'm very committed to Poland.
What about Baltics?
Poland's in a tough neighborhood, you know.
What about the Baltics?
The Baltics, they got a lot of, it's a tough neighborhood too, but we're committed. We're going to be very committed, and we're committed to NATO. But NATO has to step up, and the Europeans have to step up more than they have. And I want to see them equalize because they are in for far less than we're in, and they should be at least equal. You understand that? Why is the United States, we have an ocean in between. Why is the United States in for so much more money and other things as Europe? With that being said, and as you said, they've also been obviously very helpful. but we have put in far more than they have. And I think they should equalize.
Mr. President,
Yeah, please, go ahead.
Ask you about the agreement again today. What changed between the first time that Secretary Bessent gave President Zelensky the agreement and today for the signing?
We made a deal. So
What was the
I'm just-
deciding factor?
I'm a business person. We made a deal. That's what changed.
Along with mineral-
I didn't think we were going to make a deal. And we ended up making the deal, so that changed.
Mr. President, what and how do you envision a trilateral summit with President Zelensky and Putin?
I don't know,
in
but
these
well, they
circumstances?
don't like each other. I can tell you that. Okay? They do not like each other. This is not a love match. And it's unfortunate. That's why you're in this situation. The United States should not have allowed this to happen. Okay? The United States, run by a man that didn't know much, I'm going to be very nice, run by an incompetent person, very incompetent person, should never have allowed this to happen. I've stopped wars. I've stopped many wars. My people will tell you, I stopped wars that nobody ever heard about. I stopped wars before they ever started. You can look at some of, I could give you a lot of nations that would tell you right now they were probably going to war. I could tell you right now there's a nation thinking about going to war on something that nobody in this room has ever even heard about. Two smaller nations, but big, still big. And I think I've stopped it. But this should have never happened.
Mr. President.
About sorry, just a second. About any negotiations. First of all, I want really to tell you, and I think that everybody understands that modern Ukrainians, nobody wants to stop this war. But
Yo, never mind. So I want to get it solved. Okay, that's okay, right? So Trump's saying, I want to get it solved. This is why people elected him. He's the businessman, et cetera, et cetera. Are you committed to keeping Eastern European troops? He's like, oh, well, everybody needs to kick in. I agree with the sentiment that everybody needs to kick in, but he's basically saying like, yeah, Poland's cool, but everybody else sucks. Dude, this isn't what you say, right? Normally you would go to the European nations and you would say, hey, listen, we're not guaranteeing security the way that we used to. Y'all need to kick in or else we're not doing it. You have to be at a minimum of 2%. If you look at it, almost everyone is kicking in at least 2%. But I wouldn't even care if he went further and said, hey, listen, there's a war in Europe in your backyard. We are contributing, $200 million or whatever. Europe needs to contribute more, right? And I think that if you actually look at individual actors, as an example with France, I think France said that they've contributed 125 million. And if you look at like per capita, they've kicked in more. So I understand if Europeans like take issue with it, that's totally fine. I think Trump's being incompetent and he's just rambling off the top of his head. So he blames the Russian-Ukrainian conflict on Biden because Biden was too weak. Therefore, that's why Putin invaded, which is something that you can't verify at all. And then he says in front of Zelensky, oh, they don't like each other and that's not good. No shit, you dipstick 2 IQ motherfucker. Zelensky is getting reports every day that 20% to 25% of his country has been taken by a foreign invader, and that foreign invader is shooting missiles and artillery into civilian areas on purpose to kill civilians. He should and can be furious. So I might say to Zelensky, war is diplomacy by other means, and therefore you have to deal the hands that you're dealt. But Trump being so socially stupid that he can't be sympathetic to a country that's being invaded and a president whose citizens are being killed is not surprising to me. And part of the reason why I didn't vote for him, right, is because I did think he was this stupid to say this kind of shit. Okay. Imagine 9/11 happens. So there's 3,000 dead Americans. There's $2 billion worth of damage. We've been fighting in other wars where we've lost thousands of troops. The president of the United States is saluting the coffins as they come home. He's giving awards to soldiers who are risking their lives every single day in order to fight for truth, justice, and the American way. And you walk up to the president of the United States and you say, wow, you really don't like Osama bin Laden much, do you? It's like, yeah, no shit, motherfucker. Of course I hate bin Laden. What the fuck is this? Like I get it. Zelensky can catch heat because he has to deal with the cards that he's dealt. But this is the kind of like diplomatic retardation for which I have always hated Trump. Let's continue.
But at the future, any
Guys got audio,
negotiations,
right?
it's understandable that two sides of the war, not Russia and the United States, because this is not the war between Russia and the United States. This is war of Russia against Ukraine and Ukrainian people. So these two sides will be at the anyway will be at the negotiation table. Then of course United States, like the strongest partner of the Ukraine, and of course Europe. I think Europe is very important. I want to speak about it with the president. Yes, Europe is very important for us because we really defend Europe for today. All Europeans really recognize that we are defending the line, and they have real life, and our people are dying. That's why they helped us. And also, it's about the NATO. Yes, between, like the president said, you have big, nice ocean. Yes, between us. But if we will not stay, Russia will go further to Baltics and to Poland, by the way. But first to the Baltics. It's understandable for them because they've been in the USSR. You know, they've been one of the republics of the USSR, and Putin wants to bring them back to his empire. It's a fact. And when he will go there, if we will not stay, you will fight. Your American soldiers, it doesn't matter, do you have ocean or not, your soldiers will fight.
Mr. President, would you be willing to visit Ukraine, maybe Kiev or Odessa, which is...
Woo! I'm happy that Trump hasn't fallen for that bait yet, but basically this is not a war between U.S. and Russia. This is a war between Russia and Ukraine, so we have to be at the negotiating table. That's obvious. And if the United States party doesn't recognize that, then they're just myopic and stupid. The Europeans are helping us as well, and we need to acknowledge their sacrifice. If the U.S. is weak, then Russia is going to go to the Baltics. Now, this is me paraphrasing, but this is actually like a really interesting positioning by Zelensky. So in my opinion, the reason why he would say they're going to go after the Baltics or maybe Poland next is because if Ukraine is successfully partitioned, weakened, invaded, the United States doesn't back them, et cetera, and if you have MAGA administrations who are saying they're not going to abide by NATO, they're not going to, when they call Article 5, they're not going to respond. This is like, Gondor or whatever. There are Republican politicians who say, I don't think Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia are necessary for NATO to be strong or something like that. They'll say some shit like that, right? And so what that tells your enemy is, oh, Article 5 is just words on paper. We're not going to enforce this. Therefore, if we do take a substantive amount of Ukraine back, then we can also look at Latvia, Estonia, and Lithuania. And if Trump or Vance say out loud that they're not going to respond to a Russian incursion into the Baltics, we could take the Baltics and NATO isn't going to respond. Europe doesn't have the stones. United States is saying they're not going to do it. So as a result, we can do what we want to do. So this can sound like saber rattling and propaganda from Zelensky. But I think that you, especially as a country that's currently being invaded, you have every right to believe this, right? Especially with Russia as your neighbor. We are separated by ocean, so we do have that privilege. I think that Eastern Europeans have every right to be nervous about Russian aggression. So also, this could be a rhetorical pivot by Zelensky to the Europeans, where if the United States is not willing to back Ukraine the way that it has, then Europe would need to be the primary financier and primary provider of military materiel for Ukraine to continue to prosecute the war. So, that I kind of see him, like, I understand why Marco Rubio or JD Vance would get pissed off, because basically what he's saying is, if the United States isn't going to back us, we are going to go to Europe. So I get it. Thoughts on Naruto for BizD for $2. Thank you for the donation, by the way. No thoughts. There's a Irish song called Fuck You, I'm Drunk that is set to Naruto fight scenes, and that is my interaction with Naruto. It's a bunch of ninjas fighting each other, right? Storm Wow says, geographically, the Baltics are way more vulnerable from Ukraine. NATO is the difference maker. I agree. What is the evidence that Putin wants to take the Baltics? Alexander Dugin, I guess. There's a bunch of Russian philosophers that talk about Russian power and geographic power and all that kind of stuff. And effectively, they believe that Putin's legacy is wanting to re-secure Russia as a near-peer power to the United States, and especially a power in Europe. And therefore, they need their buffer states the way that they had them during the Soviet Union. So, I mean, you can go to Russian philosophers who believe this is accurate. All right, let's continue.
It's going to be a third year with Lexi.
It was my question.
I'm sorry.
I don't want to talk about Odessa now. Let's not talk about Odessa. I want to talk about making a deal, getting peace. We don't have to talk about Odessa, but a lot of cities have been destroyed. A lot of cities that are not recognizable. There's not a building standing.
No.
And a lot of
You have to come,
things have
Mr.
to happen.
President. You have to come and to look. No. We have very good cities. Yes, a lot of things have been destroyed, but mostly cities alive and people work and children go to school. Sometimes it's very difficult. Sometimes closer to front line, children have to go to underground schools or online, but we live. Ukraine is fighting and Ukraine lives. This is very important. And maybe it's Putin is sharing this information that he destroyed us. No, he lost 700,000 people, 700,000 soldiers. He lost everything. Yes. So,
Mr.
Mr. President, more. I mentioned
Please, go ahead.
When did you last speak with President Putin? And what did he say that?
A couple of days ago.
And what did he tell you that gave you the assurance that he wanted peace?
Well, that's what I do. My whole life is deals. I know pretty good. And I've known him for a long time. I've dealt with him for a long time. He had to suffer through the Russia hoax. Russia was a hoax. It was all Biden. It was nothing to do with him. So he had to suffer through that, and he was able to do that. I think that he wants to make a deal, and he'd like to see it end. That's all I do. That's what I do. My whole life, that's what I do is make deals. And I'm in the middle of a mess because this is a real mess. It's a very dangerous one. If this doesn't get solved now, it's not going to get solved for a long time. So I hope we're going to get it solved. In the back, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Prime Minister Starmer claims repeatedly that his government believes in free speech and was not engaged in censorship. But his country's government arrests people for memes and thought crimes, and even more worrisome is pressuring American companies to censor Americans on his behalf. How can he be a reliable, trustworthy partner when he says things that are demonstrably false on such an important topic?
Well, we actually spoke to him about that yesterday, and we thought they took it very, very much too far. JD was very strong on it. So was I. So was Marco. And we've been speaking to him about it. Marco, would you like to say something about that?
We have concerns, obviously, with the conduct of those, particularly as it impacts Americans. And there's real concern that American speech, which is online, could fall into the hands of British or any country's jurisdiction. And so this is a point the Vice President made at Munich, and I think it's a very compelling one that what unites us with Europe, as much as anything else, is these shared values, and one of them being free speech. And so if Americans are threatened by it, we're going to need to take action in that regard.
It's actually a very important question.
We spoke about this in detail with the Prime Minister, the Foreign Secretary, and others at lunch yesterday. And I know that Secretary of Commerce Lutnick followed up in private meetings last night. This is really important. We believe Americans have the right to speak their mind, even if we in this room disagree with them. They have the right to speak their mind in the public square, which is often online these days. And we're going to defend that right as it pertains to American companies and American citizens vigorously if we have to. I do think that under the president's leadership, we're going to find common ground with our friends in the UK on this question, but it remains to be seen. The principle that will guide us is we believe in free speech in this country and we'll fight for it for American citizens.
Yo, is that like, I like that. It's a double-edged blade, right? Double-edged blade. The reason why I like that, okay, is because there are simps for the MAGA institutions that will use the Constitution, use freedom of speech, and use all that kind of stuff as a cudgel with which to beat their opponents. And I'm going to use it as a cudgel back, okay? So if there is anything that the MAGA administration goes after in reference to the First Amendment, Second Amendment, or whatever, I'm going to go back to this clip. I'm going to show that J.D. Vance is pressuring our European allies about their perspectives on freedom of speech. I'm going to say, no, We agreed that these are universally positive virtues and universally positive ways to run a government in a society. Therefore, your fucking bullshit simping, whatever the fuck, betrayal of values, absolutely the fuck not. Right? The accelerationists like Brianna Joy Gray were right. The swing back is going to be so strong. We're fucked. You're going to have to articulate that a little bit more in order for me to agree with you. So feel free to do that. Let's keep watching though. There's only about like 10 minutes left worth of content, and I do want to get through it. Maybe we'll find something else in order to watch after that, but I did kind of plan on going hard on the hard politics today. So I do want to thank the 75 people. We are no longer cross-platform because I said the F slur on Twitch, so I probably still have a few more days left in my 7-day ban. However, I do want to thank the people who have already donated. If you have super chat money in your pocket, burning a hole in your pocket, you want to hang out with us going forward. Obviously, whenever people give us donations, then that allows me to tell the wife, hey, it's a good thing for me to spend 5 to 6 hours on a weekend in order to hang out with my chat because they give me a little bit of money in order to do so. Alternatively, if you're brokey, you're a wage cage slave, et cetera, be sure to like the stream. That way other people know that we're live. Be sure to follow if you're not already following on Twitch. Be sure to subscribe on Twitch. And then also YouTube memberships should be live. You should be able to find whatever buttons are necessary in order to become a YouTube member. I did turn them on. We got a whole bunch. We got like 4 different tiers. So it's like $3, $5, $10, $25. So if you're not somebody who likes to super chat a lot because you don't have a lot of expendable cash, but you still want to expend money towards making the channel viable financially, feel free to give us $3 a month. Everything counts. And obviously the goal is to do Warhammer, Star Wars, and politics full time eventually. Abby Road says, do we have a Discord? Yes, we do have a Discord. I think you can do !Discord, but a lot of the links are broken. Let me open it up over here. I'll dox myself temporarily. Then I'll pull up my Discord. I will invite people, copy the link, and I will send it to you. Hidden use copy button. Why doesn't it just let me do it? It's so annoying. Hidden, use the copy button. Edit invite link. Generate a new link. Copy. I don't know what's up with it. Basically, just DM me on Twitter, Counter Connor, COUNTR CONOR. All right. Anyways, let's continue.
Mr. President, on the deal, is there any other oil and gas component to the deal? Is it all critical?
A little bit. We'll see.
On LNG?
But we're not really looking for that so much. We got a lot. We have more than anybody in the world by far. So no, we're not talking about it too much, but a little bit. I think it affects also, but for the most part, no.
And sir, is there any agreement from Ukraine to purchase U.S. LNG as part of the deal, or is that on the table at all?
No, we don't need that.
Mr. President, I just wanted to ask you about, you just mentioned that you'd spoken to Vladimir Putin a couple of days ago. Just to be clear, that's a new call, not the one that you...
I've spoken to him on numerous occasions.
Okay. And how was the latest call? What did you discuss? How did it go?
Are you serious with that question?
I am. I'd love to know.
It went well. I think we're going to have a deal.
On the minerals deal, Mr. President, some of those minerals are in the east of Ukraine, not far from the front lines and in areas that Russia has occupied. Will you direct President Putin to withdraw his forces from those areas if there's U.S. interest?
Well, we'll take a look at the time. We have a lot of area. It's a very big area we're talking about. So we'll take a look. I'll study that and I'll see.
And who would protect those minerals if they are U.S. interests? Would that be Ukrainian forces?
They'll be protected. The agreement will protect them.
U.S.
The
forces?
agreement, yeah, we're signing an agreement.
Right, but what if Russia tries to invade or there's Russian aggression in response?
I just told you, I don't think that's going to happen. And if that were going to happen, I wouldn't make a deal. If I thought that was going to happen, I wouldn't make a deal.
Some people may wonder why.
They ought to focus on CNN on survival, not asking me these ridiculous questions. Focus on surviving because CNN's got such low ratings. I don't think they're going to survive.
Oh my God.
Let's go. Please go.
I already mentioned Poland.
Okay. If I was Ukrainian, this would be pissing me off. So it's a big area. We need to take a look at it. So we already talked earlier about how I think the southern portion of Ukraine, the area around Melitopol, Mariupol, and Kherson, basically the area that's known as Zaporozhye, that's what I would be negotiating for in order to get back. If Trump's looking at the same thing, then I'm happy. That's great. Look at that territory. If it has a whole bunch of minerals, then awesome. And we could use that as leverage in the negotiation thing. But this follow-up question, which is what happens if Russia doesn't agree to the deal? This is critical to the Ukrainian perspective. So the fact that he just says, oh, I don't think it's going to happen. Well, if it's not in writing that the United States is going to secure those territories, if it's not in writing that the United States has any kind of security agreement in order to secure those territories, then basically all you have is Trump's word. And Trump's word changes by the minute. So if I was Ukrainian, I would, one, not trust that. And then two, I would basically be under the presumption that the United States would be taking the minerals so long as they had access to them. And then the second that Russia intervened and took over those territories, that the United States wouldn't do anything about it. That would be my presumption.
Poland was under Russian control for decades after the Second World War. When I was a kid, I looked at the United States not only as a most powerful country, richest country in the world, the country that has great music, great movies, great muscle cars, but also as a force for good. And now I'm talking with my friends in Poland, and they are worried that you align yourself too much with Putin. What's your message for them?
Well, if I didn't align myself with both of them, you'd never have a deal. You want me to say really terrible things about Putin and then say, hi, Vladimir, how are we doing on the deal? That doesn't work that way. I'm not aligned with Putin. I'm not aligned with anybody. I'm aligned with the United States of America and for the good of the world. I'm aligned with the world, and I want to get this thing over with. You see the hatred he's got for Putin. It's very tough for me to make a deal with that kind of hate. He's got tremendous hatred, and I understand that, but I can tell you the other side isn't exactly in love with, him either. So it's not a question of alignment. I'm aligned with the world. I want to get the thing set. I'm aligned with Europe. I want to see if we can get this thing done. You want me to be tough? I could be tougher than any human being you've ever seen. I'd be so tough, but you're never going to get a deal that way. So that's the way it goes. All right, one more question.
Hey, I will respond to this. So look, for 4 years in the United States of America, we had a president who stood up at press conferences and talked tough about Vladimir Putin, and then Putin invaded Ukraine and destroyed a significant chunk of the country. The path to peace and the path to prosperity is maybe engaging in diplomacy. We tried the pathway of Joe Biden of thumping our chest and pretending that the president of the United States' words mattered more than the president of the United States' actions. What makes America a good country is America engaging in diplomacy. That's what President Trump is doing.
Can I ask you?
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So he occupied our parts, big parts of Ukraine, part of East and Crimea. So he occupied it on 2014. So during a lot of years, so I'm not speaking about just Biden, but those time was Obama, then President Obama, then President Trump, then President Biden, now President Trump, and God bless, now President Trump will stop him. But during 2014, nobody stopped him. He just occupied and took. He killed people. You know what the contact
2015.
2014 and
2014.
Yeah. So
I was not here.
Yeah, but
that's exactly right.
Yes, but during 2014 till 2022, the situation the same. The people have been dying on the contact line. Nobody stopped him. You know that we had conversations with him, a lot of conversation, my bilateral conversation, and we signed with him, me, like a new president. In 2019, I signed with him the deal. I signed with him, Macron and Merkel, we signed ceasefire. Ceasefire, all of them told me that he will never go. We signed with him with gas contract. Yes, but after that, he broken this ceasefire. He killed our people and he didn't exchange prisoners. We signed the exchange of prisoners, but he didn't do it. What kind of diplomacy JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around.
JD, you piece of shit. Yo. So what the fuck are you talking about? Damn. Yo. Hold up. That's my boy JD though. He's a debate bro. He's an emo Marine. You know, he likes a little bit of distant right-wing politics. He likes to debate. This was the wrong time. Holy shit. That was not great. Ooh. So hold on. This is the moment that everybody was focused on, and I'm sure it's going to get worse. So let's take a look at it. So the Polish guy says, as a Pole, we admire U.S. culture. Poles are worried that the U.S. is getting too friendly with Russia. Trump says, I'm not going to malign Putin because that's counterproductive to a deal. Okay, that makes a limited amount of sense. Zelensky hates Putin with good reason, but so does Putin. He's making it equivalent, which if I was Zelensky, I would, that would rub me wrong. But let's focus on the deal. I can be tough, but that's not going to be productive towards a deal. So insofar as I could say that Zelensky hates Putin and that's counterproductive to a deal. I could see Zelensky chafing at that. But if I was Zelensky, I absolutely would let that slide because he's right. Let's focus on the deal. Let's focus on getting something done. That way everybody can, do it. But then JD Vance fucking pops in and he's like, listen, everyone's talking shit about how Trump talks. But truth is Biden's a pussy and he didn't do anything. Whereas Trump's actions matter more than his words. So he's just he's getting the, he's getting he couldn't pass up that opportunity to blow Trump in this fucking diplomatic meeting, right? And Zelensky, unfortunately, decides to be a fucking debate bro. And he's like, hold up, JD, you fucking piece of shit. This started in 2014. Obama didn't do shit. You were in office from 2015 to 2019. Trump didn't do shit. I signed a ceasefire deal with Putin, which he then violated and didn't do the prisoner exchange. And that was the 2019 deal. So I'm already engaged in diplomacy with this guy and he's a total fucking piece of shit. So for you to walk in and just say, why don't we try diplomacy? Go fuck yourself a little bit. And so JD, instead of being like, oh, wow, this is a sensitive issue with tens of thousands of people's lives on the lines. This could actually kill people, and we should go ahead and say it. He easily could have said, Mr. President, I said that with full respect. I understand that you've tried diplomacy in the past and it hasn't worked, but you know what? Yeah, I trust President Trump and I trust Marco Rubio and I trust the American team in order to negotiate a good deal for you and your country. And I want nothing but the best for your people and for all of global humanity. That's what JD could have done. That's what he could have done if he had those instincts. But instead, he's like, nah, I'm going to torpedo this shit. So let's go ahead and watch JD Vance inadvertently get tens of thousands of people killed. Let's watch that.
Around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring it into this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine? That you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Come once.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military? And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that's trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems. Even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future.
You
God
don't-
bless.
you don't know that.
God bless.
You don't
God
know that.
bless. You
Don't-
will not
you
have
gotta-
a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because
I'm
you're in no
answering on
position
this
to
question.
dictate that.
That's exactly
Remember
what
this.
you're
I'm
doing.
not
You're
dictating.
in no position to dictate what we're going to feel.
You
We're
will-
going to feel very
you will
good.
feel influenced.
We're going to feel very
I'm
good and
telling
very
you,
strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed
From the
yourself
very-
to be in a
from
very
the very
bad position.
beginning
And he
of the
happens
war.
to be right
From
about
the
it.
very
JD,
beginning
why?
of the war,
You're not in a
Mr.
good
Brown,
position.
I
You don't
was-
have the cards right now. With us, you start having
I'm not playing
cards.
cards.
Right now, you
I'm
don't.
very
Yeah, you're playing
serious,
cards.
Mr. President.
You're
I'm
playing
very
cards.
serious.
You're
I'm
gambling
the
with the
president
lives
in
of
war.
millions of people.
You think
You're gambling with World War
what
III.
what do you think
You're
about-
gambling with.
No. Wow. Wow. This is horrible. I'm sorry. I needed to take a cringe break. So we got JD trying to suck Trump's dick, and then Zelensky interrupts him sucking Trump's dick, and then Trump gets pissed off because he wants his dick sucked more. Good job. Good job.
with
What is
World
thinking
War
about?
III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country,
I'm
that's
with all
backed you
respect to you.
far more than a lot of people said
very
they
respect.
should have.
I'm going to do 1.25 because I'm cringing super hard right now. I'm sorry if that is difficult to listen to, but this is actually fucking hurting me.
You said thank you once this
A lot
entire
of
meeting?
times.
No, in this
Even
entire meeting,
today.
you said thank
Even
you.
today.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war, you
He's
can...
not speaking loudly. He's not
Yeah.
speaking loudly. Your country's
Can I-
in big
can-
trouble.
can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No,
Can
you've
I
done a lot
answer?
of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not
I
winning.
know.
You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of
we are
coming out
staying-
okay because of
Mr.
us.
President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
You haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet,
You
and
haven't
not
been
only
alone.
in this
We
cabinet.
gave you, through
I
this
said
stupid
thank-
president, $350 billion.
You
We
voted
gave
for
you
your
military equipment,
You
and you
voted
men
for
are
your
brave, but they had to use our military.
What about
If you didn't have
You
our
invited
military
me-
equipment,
You invited
if
me
you
to
didn't
speak.
have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3
okay?
days, I heard it from Putin. In 3 days, this is something
Maybe
new.
less.
In 2 weeks, of course, yes.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this. I tell you.
Just say thank you.
I said a lot of
Accept
times
that there-
thank you
accept
to
that-
American people.
Accept that there are disagreements, and let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the American media when you're wrong. We know that you're wrong.
But you see, I think it's good for the American people to see what's going on.
I understand, sir.
I think it's very
I understand.
important. That's why I kept this going so long. You have to be thankful. You don't have the
I'm
cards.
thankful.
You're
Oh
buried
my
there.
God.
People are dying.
tell you
You're
again,
running
I
low
know.
on soldiers.
Don't-
Listen,
don't,
you're
please,
running
Mr.
low on
President.
soldiers. It would be a damn good thing.
Mr.
And then
President.
then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire. I want to go and I want this. Look, if you could get a ceasefire right now, I tell you, you take it so the bullets stop flying and your men stop getting killed.
Of course, we want to stop the war,
But
but
you're
I
saying
said,
you
Dude, oh. So JD says that Ukraine isn't engaging in diplomacy. Zelensky takes umbrage with the fact that he's being accused of not engaging in diplomacy when he already negotiated in 2019 a ceasefire and prisoner exchange, which was violated by the other party. And because he hasn't sufficiently flattered Donald Trump and JD Vance, and he took issue with something that was being said to him, they jump down his throat and say, you need to be more grateful when we're not giving you any security guarantees. We're forcing you to sign a $500 billion deal effectively under duress. And then, we'll continue selling you weapons and you can fight it out on your own. Wow. This is exactly why I didn't want this fucking toddler to be the leader of the free world. Yeah, this is it. This is it. This is it. I hate saying this. Okay, I hate saying this. But chat. Okay, my dear beloved 70 people in chat. Okay, I took so much unbelievable amounts of shit over the past year. Okay, I took so much shit for saying, you know what? I think Donald Trump was a fucking disaster in his first term. I think he mismanaged COVID. I think he got a whole bunch of fucking people killed. I think he lied. I think he was incompetent. And then on top of that, he tried to subvert the government of the United States. Therefore, on a principled basis, I cannot support Donald Trump. I'm going to go with the lesser of two evils, which was Democrats. Okay? That's what I said at the beginning of the term. As it continued, and we got more pro-Russia, pro-anti-Ukrainian, pro-isolationist rhetoric from the Trump campaign, I was like, this guy's going to get into power. He's going to fuck a bunch of shit up. And there's going to be Ukrainians and trans people and not me. I'm white. I'm straight. I'm married. My bills are mostly paid. My taxes are mostly paid. I'm okay. But there's going to be people who I, relatively speaking, care about, and they're going to get hurt or killed by Trump's incompetence. Therefore, in good conscience, I cannot vote for this man. Not only can I not vote for this man, I think that the issues are so critical that I have to vote against him, right? And I said that for a year. And people were saying that, like, you're only saying that because you're getting paid. And you're like, no, like, I'm getting paid, so I work with people who are actively trying to stop a Trump presidency, and we're all working towards a shared common political goal because it has impact, okay? I don't care temporarily that Vosh is jerking off the fucking cartoon kids. I don't care temporarily that Destiny said some edgy shit about a fucking firefighter. I don't care that there's people who are fighting online about who banged who and who did this and who did that. I care about the fact that there are going to be policies that come out of the United States that get people killed unnecessarily. That's what I care about. So if there's a way to mitigate or minimize the damage caused by a Trump presidency, then I want to do that, right? And I took shit for the better part of a fucking year because of that. And now all we're seeing is, I hate this. I hate this. I don't want to be correct, right? I don't want to be right. I want Trump to be a decent leader and a decent diplomat. I want JD Vance to be the intelligent person in the room and to lead in a diplomatic situation and negotiate an actual fair peace. That's what I want. And instead, I have a fucking sycophant who knows better. By the way, JD is not a dumb man. I have a sycophant who knows better, who says, excuse me, President Zelensky, allow me to blow Donald Trump real quick. Does this feel good, sir? And then Zelensky's like, okay, you just said that Trump is the best. You just sucked his dick in front of me because you said that we're engaging in diplomacy. I engaged in diplomacy in 2019. What the fuck do you have to say about that? And JD Vance fights him in front of the media. But, bro, I wish this wasn't real. That's how I feel. I wish this wasn't real. Oh. Okay. Let's continue to take psychic damage as a family, okay? My 80 closest friends and family members. Let's all take psychic damage together.
You don't want a
But I
ceasefire?
said to you,
I want a
with
ceasefire.
guarantees.
Because you'll get a ceasefire faster than an agreement.
Ask our people about ceasefire, what they think.
That wasn't
doesn't
with
matter for
me.
you what-
That
what
wasn't
is-
with me.
it
That was with
wasn't with
a
you.
guy named Biden who was not a smart person.
This
That
is
was
your-
with,
this
that
is
was with
your
Obama.
president. It was your president.
Excuse me. That was with Obama, who gave you sheets, and I gave you javelins.
Yes.
I gave you the javelins to take out all those tanks. Obama gave you sheets. In fact, the statement is Obama gave sheets and Trump gave javelins. You got to be more thankful. Because let me tell you, you don't have the cards. With us, you have the cards. But without us, you don't have any cards.
One more question to Mr. Vice President. I'm sorry.
It's going to be a tough deal to make because the attitudes have to change.
What if Russia breaks ceasefire? What if Russia breaks peace talks? What do you do then? I understand that it's a heated conversation right now.
What are you saying?
She's asking, what if Russia breaks the ceasefire?
What if anything? What if a bomb drops on your head right now? Okay? What if they broke it? I don't know. They broke it with Biden because Biden, they didn't respect him. They didn't respect Obama. They respect me. Let me tell you, Putin went through a hell of a lot with me. He went through a phony witch hunt where they used him and Russia. You ever hear of that deal? That was a phony Hunter Biden, Joe Biden scam. Hillary Clinton, Shifty Adam Schiff. It was a Democrat scam. And he had to go through that. And he did go through it. We didn't end up in a war. And he went through it. He was accused of all that stuff. He had nothing to do with it. It came out of Hunter Biden's bathroom. It came out of Hunter Biden's bedroom.
Trump is actually
it was
retarded.
disgusting. And then they said, oh, the laptop from hell was made by Russia. The 51 agents. The whole thing was a scam. And he had to put up with that. He was being accused of all that stuff. All I can say is this. He might have broken deals with Obama and Bush, and he might have broken them with Biden. He did, maybe. Maybe he didn't. I don't know what happened. But he didn't break them with me. He wants to make a deal. I don't know if you can make a deal. The problem is I've empowered you to be a tough guy. And I don't think you'd be a tough guy without the United States. And your people are very brave. But you're either going to make a deal or we're out. And if we're out, you'll fight it out. I don't think it's going to be pretty, but you'll fight it out. But you don't have the cards. But once we sign that deal, you're in a much better position. But you're not acting at all thankful. And that's not a nice thing. I'll be honest, that's not a nice thing. All right, I think we've seen enough. What do you think? Huh? This is going to be great television.
Holy shit. Listen, man, I don't know why I bothered with anything, right? I don't, I worked kind of hard through the early parts of high school. I was told that I needed to focus on academics. I worked very hard through the Marine Corps. I worked pretty hard through college. I worked pretty hard through law enforcement. I don't think any of that mattered, right? I think I should have just been born in the right family. I think I should have inherited money, and I think I should have been a liar and a bully and a confidence man, and I could have been the president of the United States, right? I'm being sarcastic. I would rather be me than be Donald Trump. I just wish I had Donald Trump's money and influence. But man, you can just be retarded and rich, and it'll be good. You can be retarded and rich, and you can act confident, and everything's fine. Let's think about that. Let's think about what he just said. It's one of the dumbest fucking things I've ever heard uttered by a politician ever. He said that Putin suffered because he had public pressure on him because he was accused of manipulating the elections of the United States. Do you think Putin gives a shit if Americans think that he manipulated the United States elections? Even then, when you look at like the Mueller report and the other reports and all that kind of bullshit, I'm pretty sure that there were paid Russian psychological operations campaigns during the elections. That was done with the knowledge of the Kremlin. So he got accused of a little bit more than he actually did. Do you think Putin, the former KGB agent who assassinates people with polonium, he ordered that a man be stabbed with a radioactive material in order to kill him with cancer because he ran away from Russia and started spilling Russian secrets to the United Kingdom? So he said, don't just kill that guy. Kill that guy in a really creative way that gives him cancer and make sure that he dies horribly. Putin said that. Do you think people in the United States talking shit about him causes him an ounce of anxiety? And Trump is over here like, well, number one, I'm the toughest guy you've ever fucking known. Therefore, he will not break a deal with me. And not only that, him and I, we have a connection. We have a connection because I was accused of using Russian influence in order to get into office. And Putin was also accused of using influence in order to get me into office. And that was all a lie. What the fuck? That's like the most retarded fucking thing that's ever been said out loud in politics ever. And I'm supposed to pretend that this is normal? I'm supposed to pretend that I'm supposed to be proud that this is the leader of the free world. I'm supposed to be proud that this is the leader of the Republican Party. And he's effectively a fucking toddler. What the fuck, guys? What the fuck? Why am I being harangued online for thinking that that is the stupidest fucking thing that I've ever heard? Why are Republicans, 55% of the party, they don't even have mixed feelings about Trump. They think he's a good guy. Why is 55% of my party fucking retarded? I don't know what to do. I literally don't know what to do. If I could, I would call the neocons and Bill Kristol and Adam Kinzinger. I really wish I had Adam Kinzinger's phone number. And I would say, listen, Tim Pool is pretending to be a centrist and he's a MAGA dick sucker. Who else? I'm thinking of Phil just because Phil's a Tim guy. Lauren Southern is a distant right-wing person who pretends that she's libertarian or whatever, but she ended up going along with the MAGA people too. All of these alt media pundits or whatever, Jack Posobiec, all that kind of stuff, they pretend that they're all fucking free thinkers, but they're all MAGA dick suckers. So unless you want the Republican Party to die, then we need a series of alt media figures who are not MAGA dick suckers. Please, for the love of God. It's incredible to me. I love the poorly uneducated. So true. So true. Yeah, has Rob had a reaction to this? Yeah, he loves it. This is red meat for him. He's so proud. He's so proud that our president finally stood up to the bully and con man, President Volodymyr Zelensky from Ukraine. He is so happy that the United States no longer is getting bullied by Ukraine. It's fucking amazing. Dr. Zaya says, I'm repeating myself here, but Trump is a literal N-word. Every single interaction is a stupid power game. The values and interests of our country mean nothing. I wouldn't use the N-word, but sure. I think you can use the F slur because here's the thing. Homosexuals, even they hate F slurs, right? So, you know, I think that's more acceptable. Intuitive Jackal says because MAGA has a huge brain rot epidemic. I mean, I don't disagree with you. Low IQ, total lack of empathy, poor impulse control. Yep. Jack Trump is a living embodiment of the Constitution Posobiec. Dude, I made a video saying that Jack Posobiec is a fucking moron and a tool, but nobody in YouTube knows who he is. So I got like 500 views on it. You gonna debate Rob on this? No, I already debated Rob on this. I already almost had a heart attack. I'm good for now. Let's do. I'm trying to think. Okay, I'm trying to think. I have 83 of you, 85 of you. I appreciate you for being here. Be sure to like the stream, give us donos, all that kind of stuff. I started late today just because the wife had stuff to do. I am going to a wedding next weekend, so I will not be around. Do you guys? We did that. We covered it. I gave you Ukraine's history. I gave you why the Ukrainians would be pissed. I gave you the current map and breakdown of the territories. I gave you what I think would be a fair deal, and I told you why the Ukrainians are pissed off. We just watched the meltdown between Zelensky and the Trump administration, effectively justifying everything I've said over the past year, in my opinion. You don't have to agree with me, but that's how I feel. Do you guys want to do drama? Okay. The reason why I'm asking, Connor, want to go back to the before times, but there's no going back. The only way is through, and the only way is through is the Democratic Party. Come over, Connor. The water is tepid. Pachydermis Absurdus says that. Listen. If the Democrat Party has its own problems, Democrat Party is playing footsie with leftists right now. So, yeah. Sean D says not in a drama mood. Biz D says yes. Drama. MAGA or pussies. Imagine if Captain America sided with Thomas because Thomas was bigger and stronger. Yeah. Astronaut Farmer says don't do it. Okay. So y'all give me some things because obviously, right? Okay. Drama for the drama gods. I'm going to use the restroom. I'm going to get some water. Obviously, the Steven thing, the Destiny thing is still unfolding. There might be some like Bo Black stuff, but Destiny is at least tepidly, potentially drama. It's drama, but it's also YouTube and Twitch politics. I do like Nicholas Diorio. I do like Chud Logic. So I would probably watch a Nicholas Diorio breakdown. That's what I would do if we're just trying to do drama. So anyways, if there's better drama content, you guys tell me. I'm gonna hit the head. But if I was just trying to get like, hey, let's get 100 people here and get, $20 or $30 worth of donations, I would just watch Nicholas Diorio breaking down the Destiny drama. Yeah. So let me hit the head, and if you guys have a better topic, tell me. But that's what I would do left to my own devices. Be right back. Okay, what did we decide? I'm down to watch drama sluts, no fuck Diorio, drama mine, who is Bert Keane, Nicholas Diorio, where did the big man go? Let's not watch Diorio. Watching Nick Diorio stream has that dono sound stuck in my head lately. Connor never answered my question. What's your question? Christian Valeris, ask it again. I'll scroll up. So probably not next Wednesday, but you still trying to stream Wednesday with Brianna. So yeah, Wednesday I'm going to be in the Carolinas. And to be honest, this is kind of what's going on, right? So Brianna has half a dozen projects going on at any time, right? She has Dollcast. She has, I think she's working for APAC. She has DNC stuff, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So she has something to occupy her time at almost all times, but because I think her husband made a lot of money, and because I think she was a pretty successful fundraiser for the DNC and gets a healthy chunk of cash through Rebellion PAC, she can effectively choose her own missions, right? And so if you look at Counterfire on paper, I'm just going to be very transparent. Getting a dissatisfied Republican and a dissatisfied Democrat to come together to analyze the news every single week is a decent show idea. As a matter of fact, you can go ahead and point to whatever Crystal Ball and Sagar and Jetty do and Breaking Points with Brianna Joy Gray and that blonde guy. Those shows were successful, but it seems like those shows they have money behind them. And as a result of having money behind them, they have their message that they want to like zone in on, and they have production value and they have a message specifically. Whereas I think that part of the problem with being politically homeless or not liking your party is the fact that it's not as coherent as it should be if you were driving a message, right? And so I think there's a problem there where we would have to define our mission and our message and our goal. And not just that, there's always an incentive to do drama in Twitch and YouTube politics. You can see it here. Like we did hard politics for 2 hours and we broke like 80, I think we peaked out at like 85, right? Whereas if we're just talking about who has Destiny had sex with, it's going to jump up to 120, 150 easily, right? So there's always this incentive to talk about sex, right? Sex and backstabbing and politics and imploded friendships. And so for me, I like talking about sex. I like talking about imploded friendships. I like criticizing people's relationship dynamics. I like doing all that kind of stuff. But for Brianna, I think that she is of the opinion that it feels fairly lowbrow and counterproductive to being taken seriously. And so we had the conversation after the me going on with like Lab and Queeman and all that kind of stuff. And she was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to wrestle with pigs. And I don't want you to wrestle with pigs because that by proxy is me wrestling with pigs. And I'm like, okay, I mean, but I like wrestling with pigs though. So what do we do? And we've kind of been in a holding pattern since then. We kind of told each other, we scheduled a combo, but she got busy, I got busy. And then we've just kind of been in a holding pattern. So I'm not gonna like fight. Right. I'm not going to say like, oh yeah, definitely. Like we need to get Counterfire back up and running. I'm more of like, whatever we do, regardless of whether or not it's me alone or with a partner, we need to define a mission, what we're trying to achieve, who we're trying to attract, and what we're trying to do. Right. We need to have that level of definition. I come and hanging out with you guys because we can get 80 to 150 people who hate everyone I hate, or at least are willing to hear what we have to say, on a weekend, on a Saturday. That's cool to me. That's cool that we have 80 to 150 people who will come hang out. So I want to keep the internal momentum of the channel going for that purpose, but we need definition, we need a mission, we need a purpose, and we need a strategy, and we need tactics. So with or without Brianna, that's what we need to figure out. Brianna always just agrees with you. I think that's well put. Rinse, repeat. Well, that does happen. I think that's because she is moving away from the progressives. So if you're a liberal or a libertarian, even if you don't agree with me, you can at least see why I say what I say. Mithridates says, at Counterfire, Sargon is online talking about this. Talk with him about this. Sargon hates my guts despite not knowing me, right? I think I said that he capitalizes on black pill content to his face once in a Twitter reply. So short fat otaku wanted to get me hooked up with Sitch and Adam and Sargon and that whole like leftover crew and like Mahler and shit. He never said Mahler, but I'm just assuming like the general vibe was SFO, liked my vibe, wanted me to get hooked up with that crew. And so he suggested to Sargon a couple of times that we talk, right? But I think Sargon saw that I didn't simp for Sitch and Adam and I didn't just go along with talking points and I fought for left to them perspective. And so as a result, he was like, fuck this guy. And then when he jumped in like a reply one time and I replied to him and I was like, yeah, you capitalize off of black pill bullshit in order to get people more upset than they need to be in order to make the world a worse place. He was like, fuck you. I don't need to talk to you. And then he blocked me. So yeah. Abby Rose says, I'm kind of new here. What are your political views? Are you a centrist? Yeah, I would definitely say I'm a centrist. I identify philosophically with republicanism. I identify philosophically, and thank you for the donos, by the way. I'll catch up in a second. I identify philosophically with republicanism. I identify philosophically with Burkean conservatism. There's part of neoconservative, fiscal conservative, and social conservative stuff that I agree with, but I'm not militant about it. And so if you're a liberal or a libertarian, or if you're a Republican, but you care more about the Constitution than you do MAGA and the cult of personality, and if you care more about individual freedom in the Constitution than you do progressive bullshit, then you're probably in a decent place to hang out. Revolution for $5 says, I'm a left-leaning moderate European guy, and I think you have some dumb takes, but I wish all Republicans would be like you. Yeah, see, that's the thing. It's like there's not a 35% of the party could be like me. They just decide to hang out with MAGA instead. Grassroots Chechabun for $50. As much as I've been absolutely repulsed by Trump and the way he treats people, his interview with Zelensky was the most horrific thing I've ever seen. Literally someone lecturing someone at actively being graped, saying you are in no position to talk. Hey, I'm with you, man. I'm with you. Absolutely infuriating. And Grassroots, thank you for the donation. You are never obliged, because we're working, just sharing this. I don't know if Grassroots wants me to share it with chat, but I have an application with a dealer right now in order to purchase a pistol. I am going to transform that into the gun from Firefly, and then I'm going to get it over to Grassroots Hegemon. So right now, the two things that are pending are my dealer application. So I'm applying to be able to purchase firearms at wholesale prices. And then I also, what was the other thing? Oh, and then I'm also talking to a CNC manufacturer so I can get the parts in metal instead of 3D printing. So that's something that I'm working on the background with Grassroots. Pretty sick. Did you ever get my FFL? I have my FFL. I have my FFL, my federal firearms license, so I am allowed to purchase and sell firearms. I have my Florida state resale tax, so I am allowed to purchase and sell firearms in the state of Florida and pay sales tax in the state of Florida, which is required in order to get the dealership. I have applied to the dealership. I am pending my review from the dealership. And then I am sending files to the metal machine shop to see if they will be willing to cut those parts out of aircraft grade aluminum and steel. So yeah. Nevin says, hey, Nevin and I will be hanging out tomorrow. Dr. Zaya says, Snorgon a Borkod. True. Common Cure for $5. Regardless of whether Ukraine is fighting or losing war, pressuring Ukraine to surrender its land is an abdication of our core values. I agree. Super cool. Lots of paperwork. I know it is a pain in the ass. The Phoenix says finding a machine shop in Florida isn't hard. It's true. There's like half a dozen within a few blocks, not a few blocks, but like within 20 minutes of my house. All right. Anyways, so I'm going to apologize to the people who were here for hard politics and enjoy hard politics. But the truth is, let's just be real. Twitch and YouTube politics is drama with a veneer of hard politics. That's what it is. So for the Emperor, guard duty. Ooh, there's a new animation. Let's watch the animation together. Why not? So YouTube, y'all can see that, right? I think we got audio on. Let me remove it completely and then make sure that you guys have audio. Present, share screen, a whole window with the audio, this window, share, add to stage. Let's watch this together. Little for. And then we'll move into the drama. Be sure to like the video. If I'm liking the video, you should like the video. Ugh. Then we'll check out some Nicholas DiOrio. Oh, it's 10 minutes. 10 minutes is way too long. I'm sorry. I'll come back to this, and if it's good, I'll do a breakdown. Sorry for teasing you. I thought it was going to be like 3. My bad. My bad. All right, Horkout. You can see that, like, they say Chud Logic. I'm going to show this. Chud Logic and Queeman don't believe me, but I actually do watch a healthy chunk of their content. Right? This one is halfway watched. This one is halfway watched. These ones are fully watched, but they're just showing like the 10% mark. These are all fully watched. Right? So like I watch Chud content. So if the Chud Nation comment chats are like, oh, he's just a fake fan. He's just buttering you up because he doesn't want you to talk shit about him. It's like, no, I watch. You know, watching somebody that you like talk shit about somebody you hate is cool. I haven't watched as much Queeman recently just because I feel like he's gone a little hard. But, you know, I watched a little bit of his Nick DiOrio coverage. I watched some of his Erudite coverage. I watched some of his Bo Black's coverage. You know, I watch these guys. So, anyways, the only reason why I'm sharing that is just because people accuse me of being a fake fan. I'm not a fake fan. I'm a real fan. All right, so we're going to watch... Destiny's Meltdown needs to be studied. Hypocrite and doxing. This is... I think we should do this one, even if it's longer. Obviously, we're not going to watch all of it, but I want to respond to Nick DiOrio's response because I think that I am between a Destiny simp and Nick DiOrio, and I want to articulate why. So... Actually, let me ask chat real quick. Do y'all want to watch the aftermath or do you want to watch him covering the Destiny response? I like the channel Real Life Lore does great geopolitical breakdowns. That is Sean D. That is an excellent channel idea. Like doing history, but doing it as a lore channel. That's brilliant. Bibia Life, we need to do something with your layout. It's true. It's true. Taze is on the verge of death, Silver. So... I desperately want a merch store, and I desperately want to Taze to work on the layout, but like he's getting worked to death by his family. I'm still making him do Warhammer stuff every single week. He's got a girlfriend. He's trying to have a social life. So like, I don't want to add to his plate if he's already dying. Destiny drama coverage now. All right, cool. So I'm changing the title to Ukraine for Noobs and Destiny drama coverage now, just because if people want to come in and watch that, we can. Meh, whatever. The code from DGG is Destiny only one of the docs for legal reasons. Yeah, right. Yeah. What happened? Would it get views, though? Holy shit. What a loser. True. Yeah, he got a girlfriend. Yeah, he got a girlfriend and he's trying to live a social life and his parents gave him a job and he's working his ass off for them as well. All right. I'm just going to follow my instincts and I'm going to go for the aftermath instead of the current stuff because right now, in my opinion, everybody's covered the current stuff and Nicholas DiOrio is going to talk about the...
I'm assuming
he's going to talk about the coverage in his aftermath stuff. So let's do that. Y'all ready? Let me know if like the sound and everything is working properly. I moved you guys off to the side so I could still see the chat. So, all right, let's go.
Recording? Hi, I am here to Globes. Feel like you guys came at the king and you missed.
That's a strong opening.
I posted this yesterday. I think this is a banger meme. The myth of sexting with Destiny. I never consented to share this. Gotcha. Anything else? Her head game was mid. This is actually a reference to the actual messages when he sent them, because not only did he like violate his friend's consent by sending that video around, he also was calling her like, didn't he say it's like not good because she's inexperienced? Yeah, Rippuccino Cappuccino for sure. So like, not only did he spread her shit around, he also insulted her while, called the head.
So hold on. This is where, like, I need people, when drama happens, people are very much in their feelings. Okay. And so when the drama first dropped, people were like, oh, Destiny's a rapist and he's a sex predator and he needs to go on the sex offender registry and you're a fucking piece of shit if you don't think so. And so I had Lav and Queeman jump onto my stream in order to basically call me a rape apologist for disagreeing with that idea. But I gotta say, like, this is where I kind of thought the drama always was. Now, maybe Destiny's a serial killer. Maybe he's a rapist. Maybe he's a murderer, right? But based off of the available information, this is what happened, okay? The Destiny and a partner had consensual relations. They videotaped it. And then Pixie didn't consent to the sharing of it. It was shared with a third party where Destiny was talking shit. Okay, that's what happened. And then it got leaked after that. You can say Steven's an asshole. You can say Steven's a piece of shit. You can say that that is sexual degenerate bullshit, right? Oh, and then somebody pointed this out in chat already, okay? But this is the drama as far as we understand it. So the people calling him like a sex predator, like he's a fucking rapist, I think they're full of shit. And then the people who are saying that he's a sex offender and should be on the sex offender registry, I don't think that's accurate in line with the law. If you want to call him an asshole, go ahead. You want to use sex predator colloquially, go ahead. But I'm not going to. Grassroots Hegemon for $10. If any people know how to find Nick Dioro's intro music comes from, I'd absolutely love to know its name if anyone can help a brother out. Remind me later, Grassroots. Send me a DM on Twitter. I'll ask him. We follow each other. I think I could DM him. He doesn't like, we're not like friends or anything, but I could ask. Finding out Lav leaked revenge porn before Destiny and getting on her high horse is right, but then again, that is Lav. Laugh, love, Lav, lie. Okay, so this is actually a part of the drama that did rub me wrong. Okay. So what happened the day after the conversation with Lav and Queeman was people said that Lav was sharing pictures of revenge porn in Discord and that Mr. Girl admitted to rape in his videos. Well, actually, I said this because they were like, oh, Mr. Girl was being such a fucking smartass. He was like, oh, Lav and Queeman should be put on the sex offenders registry for assaulting counterpoints right now. It's like, yeah, this is how I know that you guys know that this isn't rape or something that deserves to be on the sex offender registry is because you're making jokes out of it as it's happening. That's how I know that you're full of shit while you're fucking pearl clutching, right? But somebody said that Lav was sharing revenge porn. And so I say, oh, and I just assumed that Lav did that because let's face it, it's Lav. So I typed in, I was like, oh, well, Mr. Girl effectively admitted to rape in a video. So based off of your guys' own criteria, he would be on the sex offender registry. And then Lav shared revenge porn on Discord. So frankly, all of y'all would be on the sex offender registry, right? And so Lav came into my replies and was like, no, I didn't do that. That was a lie. I've never had Lav lie to me. She's never lied to me that I could prove, but that was a lie. Because like months earlier, a different version of Steven's porn got leaked. She took a picture of his junk and made it her Discord profile picture in a Discord with like 30 to 50 other people. She took what was effectively revenge porn and made it her profile picture. So like, again, I get that like sentiment was with these people in the beginning. It was with Queeman. It was with Lav. I got a lot of flack in my reply sections for the following couple of days. And I had to check myself. I had to see, like, am I gaslighting myself? Am I actually wrong? Am I full of it? Right? Like that's what I was thinking the first couple of days after the drama. And it's like, no, like since the drama's unfolded, it's gotten like substantively worse, more in line with my original statements. So some doors should stay shut. Bisdy says you getting blocked by Sargon probably did you more good than you know. I mean, I hope so. Yeah, Sargon sucks. True. Can we agree that Lab, Mr. Girl, and Destiny are all cringe? I mean, yeah, they're definitely all guilty of cringe, right? So Mr. Girl had his moment comeback where he's like, yeah, I did it. Destiny raped someone and now he's a e-rapist and he's going down for his crimes. It's like, okay, are you more upset by the alleged rape or are you happy that you're correct? Right? Like, if you care that much about rape, you think you would be pretty upset about it. But no, he was gloating about it. And then Lav being like, oh, he shared porn without consent. He's so evil. And then he's like, oh, here's revenge porn of Destiny. I'm gonna make a picture of his dick my profile picture. It's like, holy shit. Like, did you ever stop to think that this would be a moment of hypocrisy? Did you ever stop to think that this would be a moment of like, you're a fucking asshole? And it's like, no, they didn't stop to think. They were just like, oh, I'm right. I'm right and I'm cool. I'm good. It's insane. Grassroots Hegemon says, I'm not okay with saying he's a rapist or him putting on a list with a kid diddler. I'm actually very okay with calling him a groomer, though. Listen, if you want to use it colloquially and just say that he set up effectively a social situation that maximizes his ability to get young women to be interested in having casual sex with him, if you want to call that grooming, you can. But obviously, most people are going to assume that grooming has to do with minors, where you're inculcating young people into being engaged in illicit sexual activity. Hooligan 985 says, people get pissy when you don't participate in communal shaming. It's the Scarlet Letter thing. I mean, I agree with that. I do love being right, to be honest. You know what? Being right in public actually fucking sucks. Being right in public just means you get your dick kicked in for like fucking a month before people finally come over to your perspective. Sex pest. I'm okay with sex pest. I'm not going to say it because I'm not trying to be like, you know, rude or shitty or whatever. But if you want to say that he's a sex pest, he did sex pesty things. That I agree. Yep. He has a harem of retarded girls. Again, agreed. He built a sex cult. Relatively speaking, yes. We have a world is yeah. So anyways. All right, let's continue. Sorry, I paused Andy. My bad. Let me move you guys over here. This monitor fucking sucks, but it's okay. Let's continue.
So, like, not only did he spread her shit around, he also insulted her called the head bad. Erudite, prior to this response, had walked back her decision to leave, I guess. I am not commenting on the situation with Pixie and Steven for some time, maybe ever. None of these are planned to change. They're content ideas to see what works. Destiny was the main draw of the show. I understand people losing interest based on him not being around regularly, but please try to offer legitimate criticism. Steven and I have full plans to have him on the show again as a guest or a contributor. It's very obvious that Erudite was just kind of weighing her options and sitting on the fence because she's like a spineless, pathetic wretch, and she always has been. And people
see, this is like the commentary that I don't agree with in reference to Kyla. So with Kyla, if she was spineless, she just would have backstabbed Destiny the second she had an opportunity. She would have been like, you know what? I was a part of a sex cult and I was helping him cover up his crimes. He is a piece of shit. Fuck him. I hope he burns in hell. Abby, we'll talk about that in a moment. Getting into Erudite or whatever. So if she was spineless, then I think she would have backstabbed him instantaneously, right? Yeah, Abby, I'm answering it as it is. And then, relatively speaking, she was being accused of being Ghislaine Maxwell for the past couple of months. And Pixie and other people, Pixie, Lonerbox, to a lesser extent, some other people in the orbit, they basically came out and they were like, yeah, it's fucked up that as a feminist, she's effectively trying to help Steven minimize his anti-feminist sex pest behavior. However, she wasn't trying to like sweep it up. she was trying to get some level of justice that she thought was appropriate through for Pixie by being a mediator. Now, Erin, also known as Straighteraid, said that she didn't think that Kyla could be sufficiently unbiased in the situation, which is probably true. Kyla has financial incentives to be defensive of Destiny. She also has personal reasons to be defensive of Destiny. So, you know, she probably couldn't be an unbiased mediator between Pixie and Steven. That's absolutely correct. But the Ghislaine Maxwell criticisms were way overflated, in my opinion. And then also, if she was spineless, she would have just backstabbed Destiny as soon as she possibly fucking could. I think it actually took a decent amount of balls in increasing and an extreme public pressure to alienate herself from Destiny and call him a fucking piece of shit, to say, nah, he did something fucked up, but, you know, we're still relatively speaking boys, and I hope he becomes a better person. I think the other cudgel with which Nick has the ability to beat. He has the ability to beat Erudite with is, I think that she jumped with the Steven feels bad and is contrite thing before Steven actually did it. So they had conversations. I almost guarantee you, I wasn't there, so I can't say this 100%. I'm just saying my perspective. They probably had conversations where Kyla was like, hey, you know you fucked over your friend, right? You know that you fucked up Pixie's shit, and you know you got to make it right, right? And Steven was probably like, yeah, I fucked up. I feel bad. I hurt somebody that I cared about. I was an asshole, and I'm going to make it right. That's probably what Steven said. But Kyla extrapolated that to mean that he was going to make it right from a normal person's perspective in psychology, which a normal person's psychology would be, hey, Pixie, I'm sorry that I accidentally leaked your nudes. You know, I leaked it intentionally to a third party, but then that third party leaked it all over the internet. So I'm sorry for fucking you up. You can talk about it however you want to talk about it. You can sue me if you have to. Here's some financial recompense in order to help you with your situation and hopefully set up your better life. Again, from the deepest part of my heart, I'm sorry. That was always on the table for Steven, and he could still do it now. But he basically played it, I would say, safe and in a self-interested way safe. And that effectively forced the situation to explode. So Erudite kind of made, I don't know, she presumed that Steven's contrition was in line with something that wasn't there. So that's another mistake of hers. But I don't think that makes her a bad person. Destiny memeing online and attempting to discredit Pixie for sharing porn with others is kind of fucked. I would say that people should take... This was a Chud Logic take that I heard. People should take as much issue with that as they should the original violation. Right? So I'm operating under the presumption that, Steven, I'm just being real. I'm just operating under the presumption going forward that he's a sociopath. Right? And I've said this before, I'll say this again. Steven can understand empathetically, and people, including me, confuse empathy and sympathy all the time. With the way that I'm using empathy, I mean that Steven can articulate why people feel the way they feel. Okay? Sympathy can be experiencing vicarious pain. I do not think that Steven experiences vicarious emotional pain for people he's hurt. I do think he's capable of understanding how he's hurt people and why it's wrong. So, without the sympathy and with only empathy, he's going to play the game for himself. So like, he's not doing anything that I don't expect, basically. Grassroots, another 10. She is spineless. She walked out backwards as slowly as possible, like Homer Simpson into a hedge to protect her income and residency in the U.S. She only did that under extreme social duress. Well, Grassroots, I don't agree. So what Kyla's situation is, and you know, she can articulate it better than I can, but she started Bridges as a local business in order to get her a visa for the United States. So she started a business with Steven. Okay. And that business effectively got torpedoed by Steven's actions. There's no more business. So she has every incentive on the planet to backstab Steven and say, you're a fucking piece of shit. You fucked me over. You fucked up my visa. You fucked up this. You fucked up that. So she could come out super hard and say, fuck this guy. I'm never working with him again, because he kind of torpedoed their business. So no, I don't agree that she only acted in a selfish way. I think she has had plenty of opportunity and reason to backstab Steven. I think you're over-explaining what a psychopath is. I don't think so. I think some people don't know. We all intuitively understand. Yeah, but some people think that psychopathy necessarily has a moral judgment. It does to a degree, but it doesn't necessarily. Like, so for instance, there are good psychopaths in World War II. There were psychopaths who enlisted in the military and killed a whole bunch of the enemy. And as a result, they used their sociopathy or psychopathy in order to, like Lieutenant Spears from Band of Brothers. He was probably a sociopath or a psychopath. But Lieutenant Spears, through his actions in war, saved the lives of his men and killed the enemy. He is a good psychopath. So it doesn't necessarily carry like a moral weight to it. It's how you use your sociopathy or psychopathy. We can empathize with psychopaths. True. Destiny probably has sociopathic pathology, but isn't a sociopath or psychopath. If he was, he would go much harder against his enemies. Christian Valera says, I don't know. Maybe he enjoys low-level stakes sociopathy or psychopathy. Abby Rose says, is it too much misogynistic of me to say that you know the guys and how he is and acts? Why get involved with him in the first place or not take steps to protect yourself for this stuff? Abby, that's what I've been saying the entire time. I've caught an immense amount of shit for it just because I basically said, Steven has a decade-long public history of having poor relationship implosions with his friends and his sexual partners. So this includes me, by the way, when I say this. If you continue a friendship or a professional relationship or a sexual relationship with Steven, you should expect it to turn sour at some point, right? So I'm not, I am continuing my professional and friendly relationship with Steven with the expectation that if I say some shit that's out of pocket, or if I say something that he doesn't like, he might flip the fuck out and think that I'm the worst person in the world, right? I just have to understand that as a potential consequence of my continued engagement with that person. Christian Blair says, him refusing to go in on Vosh or Donovan Sharp after their controversies as an example. So for me, this would be like a level of consideration that I would actually push back to the sociopathy. So Vosh jerking off the cartoon kids, right? He jerked off the cartoon kids. If you want to call him a cartoon pedophile, election's over. It is what it is, right? So let's say that Destiny could have been like, oh, you're a cartoon pedophile. You jerk off the fucking cartoon kids, right? He totally could have done that, and he could have burnt them super hard. But I think that Steven has a contrarian instinct where if the dog pile is all going one way, then he doesn't want to add to the dog pile. He wants to find some level of like nuance or interest or like a defensible position or something like that. I think that's just how his brain works, right? And so I think that in the Vosh scenario, he's like, wouldn't it be nice if you had a friend who was a big streamer who could defend you being a cartoon pedophile? And he said that shit as the Vosh thing was going on, where he's like, I could defend this motherfucker, but I actually think it's funnier if he's getting dogpiled and I do nothing to help. So I think there's a contrarian streak to him in drama. Abby says, exactly, he's reckless. I hate the lack of personal accountability from the people around him. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, well, and here's the thing. If you want to say, this is something that the Pixie defenders can absolutely say, and I'm not going to complain about it. You can say, Pixie was 19 or 20 at the time. She was a young person. She was a liberal or progressive. She was new to the city. She didn't have a lot of friends. She had this multimillionaire, let's admit Steven's charismatic. He had this multimillionaire charismatic guy who said that he was capable of having discreet sexual relationship with her. They could both gain experience from the sexual relationship, and it didn't have to be a big deal. Okay. You could say that as a young woman, she made that mistake, right? But now we all know, okay? We all know. The entire internet knows, okay? So after this, if you want to give Pixie the benefit of the doubt of being a naive person. That's totally fine. I'm perfectly fine with you using that as a defense of Pixie. However, now everyone should know if you engage in sex stuff with Destiny, eventually people are going to figure it out. And it doesn't even have to be like your nudes leak. It could just be people are going to figure it out. And that's where having your private shit, having your private conduct match your publicly espoused principles, the reason why that's important is because if you don't want to catch shit for being a hypocrite in private, then just say what you think. It's so much easier. It's so much easier just to tell the truth. Biz D says he doesn't go harder because he knows he's in the public attention. If he still was a carpet cleaner, he would have stuck a letter opener into someone's jugular. Jesus Christ. God damn, Biz D. God damn. Bibulife says Destiny defending the skinny black dude was the best fucking memes ever. Yeah, Prime Kai. Yeah, he defended Prime Kai, even though Prime Kai was under like a sex scandal. Okay, but why allow him to record? That's crazy. It is crazy. It was Pixie's idea. Abbey Road, you and I are of one mind. I'm starting to think that you are my alt profile typing, and I have schizophrenia. We have Tyler Durden stuff. We'll move on in a second. I see a few people want us to move on, but chat's being very funny right now. So, okay, why allow him to record? That's crazy. I agree. So, yeah. How does Lonerbox fit into the whole drama chain? So, Lonerbox and Pixie were a situationship. They were dating. I think they hooked up once, but he's in Scotland, I think, and she's in Miami, right? So they're still friends. They still talk to each other. They still have an emotional relationship, but they don't see each other physically that often, right? And so while the leaks were happening, while the drama was happening, Lonerbox, as a friend / lover of Pixie, had to deal with the emotional fallout. And had to know that basically somebody that he had streamed a lot with, because he had streamed a lot with Destiny the previous year. He had to know that basically he could no longer be friends with Destiny. That's what happened. All right, sorry. I'm yapping and I'm engaging with my chatters who are very funny. Let's get back to the content. My apologies.
Constantly are telling me, Nick, it's too much to ask their friends to disavow them. It's like, yeah, but she's his business partner. Everything that Erudite is doing is further incentivizing Destiny to continue these activities because it's further pushing his career in a positive direction, right? Like this isn't just like an employee. This is a business partner who runs the Bridges podcast, right? This is obviously, if she's still working with him on a podcast where the entire job is to build bridges with other political content creators, it's a really hard sell to tell me that like this is not spineless behavior, right? I think that a lot of the stuff that Sunday said about Erudite was a little ridiculous. I think they framed some messages really poorly. And even I believed at that point that those were like shittier than they actually ended up being. But I mean, Erudite is a spineless little wretch. Yeah, it's spineless for sure. I don't know. I think you can't really go after somebody for maintaining a friendship with somebody, but you certainly can call their fucking morality into question by putting money in their pocket. I think that's pretty fucking fair.
I don't think this is true. I think this would be true if they still had a business venture. Now here, it's saying that Steven might come on as a contributor, or he might come on every now and then. People might not be as interested in the Bridges brand if Steven isn't involved, that kind of thing. But you have to understand that Bridges has been dead for a few months now. So all that revenue, because Kyla isn't getting paid, she's not getting a salary, right? She's getting a share of a business that she's working on. So a share of zero is zero, right? So if there's no revenue coming in from Bridges, there's no revenue. So this continued relationship being necessarily an indication of I don't know, being evil or some shit, I just don't agree.
Right. That's not unhinged at all. If you're going to continue pushing them in a positive direction by collaborating with them. Yeah. Erudite's interview with Tom was lame. I mean, Erudite literally was downplaying it, saying guys, arbitrarily, here's the goalpost. Anything to the right of this goalpost, I'll disavow Destiny. But, okay, boys will be boys. That was the...
I agree with that. So that's okay. I could say that, right? I could say I don't care about this because on the scale of human sin, I find this to be a relatively small sin. And I always thought that Steven had a sexual degenerate perspective on life. I can say boys will be boys and girls need to be smarter about who they interact with. And Destiny's a fucking asshole and a piece of shit, but he's not a sex predator. I can say that that's because that's my genuine perspective, relatively speaking. For Erudite, though, I think that's just harder to do because she positioned herself as like, I'm a feminist. I'm a men's rights advocate. I'm this, I'm that. I take these things really seriously, all that kind of stuff. Now, she can still do it and say like, hey, listen, obviously when it comes to friends, principles become a little bit more flexible because you want to stay friends with people that you care about. I think that she probably did say that, to be honest. But I think people are allowed to, if you position yourself as a feminist, I think that you can absolutely take flack if your friend leaks nudes without consent. You can take flack on your feminist bona fides. I feel like the commentary community only went after Erudite because it's an easier target. It is an easier target. That's one of the interesting things. Destron, that's a good point. So Steven has millions of dollars. He has the ability to stream. His streaming numbers are still high. I almost guarantee you that if we went over to a stream right now, he would have like 4,000, 5,000 people, maybe more, watching him just talk about politics. He has the ability to go into a fortress. Kyla has no fortress. Her content was with Steven on Bridges, and she postponed her individual content in order to work for PV and work with Steven. So she has no fortress to return to. So yeah, Kyla and Dan are absolutely easier targets than Steven is.
Long and short of what she said on Tom's stream, boys will be boys. Guys, listen, people share nudes all the time. Maybe in your fucked up community. We've got Loner Box's response. I want to play.
People do share nudes all the time, but that doesn't mean that you, my beloved stream chatter, should be sharing your nudes all the time. If you're sharing your nudes all the time, stop. And if you already shared your nudes a whole bunch, expect them to get leaked.
Play this clip of Chud Logic. I don't usually just rip parts of Chud's streams and play them, but I think that Chud puts this better than I could. This is probably the best summary. Obviously, Chud doesn't ban the refugees and people who spurg out in his chats, which I guess is probably almost as annoying sometimes as my loud donations ruining the flow of the streams. But it does occasionally lead to stuff like this.
You've watched half the video. You've already formed an opinion. It's obvious. Yes. I'll tell you why I've already formed an opinion. We're going to go over this again, I guess. Okay. The reason that I've already formed an opinion is because we have evidence of Destiny sending the video. Okay. We've got evidence here of Destiny sending the video of Pixie performing a sex act on him. Okay. We've then got Destiny here in the days of the leaks happening. I'm sorry. There shouldn't be no. I'm so sorry. There's literally zero excuse.
Oh, zero excuse for that consensual behavior.
Phone combos and stuff with this person. They were fairly close to me. It's worthless to say at this point, but I'm super sorry. There's literally no excuse.
There's literally no excuse for this implied consent. And again, he went to Erudite and essentially confessed to her too in December. All of this is not like jiving with the fact that he had no consent to share this fucking stuff.
So hold on. I do think that there's some dishonesty coming from Steven's framing of the evidence that we would of course need to verify. Okay, we would need to verify it, and he's using it as a defense and going on the offense, which I think Chud has said. Okay, if you don't think leaking the nudes is bad, then you need to consider his conduct after the fact bad, right? That's a Chud quote. I'm pretty sure he would agree with, right? So here's the implied consent argument as best as I understand it. And I'm not saying I agree with this, by the way, okay? I'm saying that this is a line of defense. So, sorry, there's somebody talking about Ukraine or Russia in the chat. Let's focus on drama first real quick. So the implied consent argument is that Pixie was not, she was framed as by Lav, by Queeman, which is their fault and not Pixie's fault. Although I guess her statement kind of did back this up. That she engaged in their relationship as a person with not a lot of experience, which is why she trusted Destiny in the first place. I'm pretty sure that her Substack statement says as much. And so people took from that, and they were calling Stephen a sex predator. They took from that the fact that he was a malicious, predatory party who was taking advantage of a naive young girl. You can still make that argument, but we need to analyze some of the evidence. What Stephen showed in his rebuttal was that Pixie not only was enthusiastic about their relationship to the point that he wasn't grooming her as a young woman, but she was the one who suggested that they share intimate videos of themselves with another partner. Now, Pixie's contention is that she only had one boyfriend prior to Stephen, that it was only one guy who was ever depicted, and that guy, also Gooner freak in my opinion, permitted her to share that video with Stephen, and therefore she had explicit consent, whereas Stephen didn't. Now, Stephen's inferential argument is that because Pixie was enthusiastic about sharing sexual content with him and never explained that she had consent, he was of the mindset what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Now, Nick DiOrio makes an interesting point later on where he's like, well, how long does that inference hold for? Because you held on to this pornography for 2 or 3 years and then shared it with a 19-year-old with whom you barely knew. So clearly, even if you're making the argument that you had inferred or implied consent, this doesn't mean that you have unlimited right to share the pornography forever with everyone, because then that would be identical to leaking it yourself. So I think that Stephen brings up a point that is logical, if framed a little bit stronger than it actually is. And then Nick DiOrio, I think, correctly bats that away. And Bibliolife says there was definitely no explicit consent from the guy. Her screenshots didn't really help her case. I agree. And this argument, all it does is really muddy the water. I don't think that I said this on Twitter, and I've said as much. It doesn't exonerate Stephen's actions, right? He still took homemade pornography and shared it with a third party without consent. It was not a third party that he knew particularly well. And as a result of that, it was leaked to the public and it damaged Pixie. That still violates the federal statute as far as I'm concerned. But I think that Nick is wrong to say that there is no logic chain that excuses Stephen's actions. I think Stephen and DGGers who are pretending that that is like a total exoneration, I think that's cope. And I think that Nick is correct to point out that it's cope. That's how I feel about that side piece. Destiny should have followed his own advice and done something before making a decision. I agree with that 100%. Yeah. Dr. Zaya says mega cope. Yeah, I don't. I think that this serves to muddy the water and call Pixie's character into question. I don't think it exonerates Stephen or his actions.
Won't say or confirm anything.
Everything he has done since December that's been explained to us or seen in screenshots implies that he did not have consent.
Thing about them, if there's any particular action or thing.
This is another thing that Nick points out, is that all of his actions since December don't even show implied consent. I almost guarantee you, I'm inferring something now, that Stephen scrolled through the DMs looking for anything that would be helpful to his public case, found that, and then use that as ammunition, which is, again, that's not something that you do if you're contrite. Like if you know that you fucked up. If you know that you fucked up, you say, hey, this would be my statement, right? If I was Stephen and I have the psychology that I have right now, and I was stuck in a situation, which I never would be, but let's just say that I was. Let's say I'm actually sorry. Let's say I'm actually contrite. Let's say that what Dan and Erudite said was accurate. What a normal human being would do, in my opinion, is he would say, listen, I was previously hypersexual in 2022 and 2023. I shared content that I should not have with a third party. As a result of my recklessness with this material, it was leaked to the public. I feel nothing but anger and shame for what I did. It sucks, and I hurt some of the people that are closest to me. As a result, I will work with this party in order to make it right with them. And for any person that I've ever hurt with my reckless behavior, I am sincerely sorry. And I will work to never do this again in the future. And I will work to make amends for whatever wrongs I have committed. That is what a contrite person would do, right? But I don't think that's the case. I think Steven is like, oh, these people are turned against me. They're malicious. They're evil. They're cruel. They're pieces of shit. Therefore, I don't owe them anything. Fuck them. And that's the way that he's been acting. I'm sorry. I'm just going to check in on chat real quick because we got some comments. T says, why can't I scroll? I lost parts of the chat. There we go. T says, why did Zelensky and Ukraine have to gall to be violently invaded by Russia? What is their goal in this? It seems very sinister. The out of bail felon president is pro-Russia, then so am I. T's being sarcastically pro-Trump. They must be behind in the VOD. We wouldn't have to send aid to Ukraine if Russia hadn't decided to violently invade that country, but you won't ever hear a Republican blame Russia because they've been trained not to. I agree with you. MAGA is very cringe. We spent the first 2 hours of the stream calling MAGA cringe. Alex Kirsch. Sorry, I gotta check the. Wow, that one kind of wild really quick. Bibliolife said there's no shot that meets the Fed statute. I'll donate $100 if he gets convicted, and I'll donate $50 if he even goes to trial. You already shared a sex tape? I shared a sex tape? What? When did I share a sex tape? What are you talking about? If anything, I should be charged with what you're talking about. What did I do? There's no shot that meets the Fed statute. Okay, so hold on. We gotta catch Silver up. Hold on. I gotta stop sharing real quick. Gotta go to Twitter. We gotta go to Pixie. Pixie. Where is she? There she is. Still follows me. I haven't said anything so fucked up that she might have muted me, but she hasn't blocked me, thankfully. I'm going to the Substack and I'm finding the federal statute because we need to catch Bibliolife up. So Joe Rogan to the left, apologizing. Federal Code 15 USC 6851. US Federal Code. We're going to put this into Google. And we're going to read it. That's the brochure on it. I don't know why they don't just list the statute. It's so frustrating. Here we go. All right. Now I can share my screen again. So let's share screen, stop screen, share screen, share screen, share screen. This one, share. And then let me go back and add it to the thing. So we need to catch Silver up, okay? So definitions, commercial pornographic content. We're not worried about that. Depicted individual, disclosure, intimate visual depiction, sexually explicit, civil action. Right of action. In general, except as provided in paragraph 4, which has exceptions for commercially produced pornographic content and also pornography where the people are not readily identifiable. An individual whose intimate visual depiction is disclosed in or affecting interstate or foreign commerce or using the means or facility of interstate or foreign commerce without the consent of the individual. And by the way, the internet covers this. Without the consent of the individual, where such disclosure was made by a person who knows that or recklessly disregards whether the individual has consented to such disclosure. I think it's going to be easy to argue that Stephen knew that or recklessly disregarded whether the individual has not consented to such disclosure may bring a civil action against that person in an appropriate district court. For the purpose of the action, the fact that the individual consented to the creation of the depiction shall not establish that the person consented to its distribution. Okay. The fact that the individual disclosed the intimate visual depiction to someone else shall not establish that the person consented to further disclosure of the intimate visual depiction by the person alleged to have violated paragraph 1. So Pixie potentially violating this paragraph with another party doesn't give Stephen consent to distribute her shit. Right? So this subsection that says that her sharing stuff doesn't mean that it's auto consent is written almost specifically for this. Now, this isn't criminal. This is civil. So I agree with you that everybody talking about the crime shit is dumb. I don't think we found I don't think anybody gave me a single criminal statute that's going to stick. However, I think you need to concede that the civil part might very much be in play. And also, I would like to know what sex tape I allegedly shared. I didn't share a sex tape. That's all you need to do. Apologize, don't deflect, and don't put blame elsewhere. Own up to your fuck ups and be sincere. I mean, if you were actually contrite, right? It isn't up to me whether or not those who I hurt will forgive me for what I did wrong. Yeah, you just have to own your shit. If anything, I should be charged. Yeah, I need to catch up with that. Abby Rhodes says, I think he said once in another context that he would never admit to being wrong because it implies how most people would take it as he is wrong on everything. Yeah, I mean, I hear that, but that just means that the audience is retarded, right? Abby Road. That just means that, like, so for instance, a lot of people, I think, including Nick in this content, he points out that the majority of people who are applauding Stephen's rebuttal don't understand that he hasn't been completely exonerated, and they're just no way. I had a point and I lost it. Come on. They're pointing out that the dumbest people in Stephen's audience are people who don't realize what was said. They're just working off of vibes. So that's actually pretty funny. And then Bibliolife follows up and he says that you all watched me have carnal relations with Rob. Therefore, if anything, I should be charged with a crime. Okay. Try Destiny in the court of public opinion. Guilty and canceled. True. But let's look at his stream numbers real quick. Because I'm pretty sure he was live a moment ago if he's not live right now, right? Dreg. Yeah. Steven is chilling, watching political content right now. He has 9,100 live viewers, right? Now, a healthy chunk of his live viewers are probably waiting for him to say something about his personal drama. Like, I would say, like, easily 2K or just chilling in the chat, waiting to see what's up, seeing if he slips up and says something about the case. But that means that between like 6,000 and 7,000 people are just watching Steven research political topics. Okay. Unless you actually incarcerate the man or deprive him of his entire net worth, he's not going anywhere. So we would need more crimes to come forward before that happens. Grassroots Hegemon says for $10. Well, the good news is that we can prove Amanda Knox was innocent because Destiny also with her at the time of the crime. All right. You guys are having too much fun. You're having way too much fun. All right. Let's get back to the Nicholas content. You guys, chat is wild. By the way, just quick shill time. Thank you to the approximately 80 people I have. Thank you for all the donations. Grassroots Hegemon always being basically an oiler, but I also had Mithridates. I also had a few other people donate in the chat. So thank you for your donations. Biz D, Mithridates, Revolution, and then Mr. Grassroots. Thank you for all your donations. If you do have any money burning a hole in your pocket, super chats are always appreciated. If you don't have money burning a hole in your pocket, memberships are live. You can be a member for $3, $5, $10, $50. I don't expect I'll have time to do a whole bunch with the memberships, but monthly support is always appreciated as well. Follow, like the stream, etc., etc. Let's continue. Oh, actually, I need to share with you guys, don't I? I need to share the screen. Share screen. The audio never works with just the window, so I have to share the whole screen, but that's okay. Add to stage. Boom.
I can do, just let me know. Number 3, they're talking about approaching Pixie, okay? Right? And then response to this here, which is probably extremely difficult to prove a case. She's not a high-profile micro-celebrity, and you didn't leak it maliciously. You didn't even leak it at all. You distributed it non-consensually.
He did leak it. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, I know. I looked into it for obvious reasons, just to be sure. But I don't really care much about the legal side of it or whatever. Obviously, I have severely, at the very least, psychologically damaged her. Covering therapy or whatever is a minimum, and I have no problem helping out or sending her money for anything as a form of reparation. I just didn't want it to come off as like, hey, bitch, lol, I know I violated your trust in the worst way ever, but here's some money, have fun.
I violated the implied consent in the worst way possible.
So him doing it, him apologizing for having done it, him then admitting to severely damaging her psychologically. So yes, my mind is made up because the evidence is here. Even references the concept that he's violated her trust in the worst way ever.
I know Destiny.
Yeah, I need to talk for the sweepers real quick. And then Christian Blair says 14 million though. Yeah, I don't think he's going to get hit for 14 million. I think it'll probably so it depends on how the statutes shake out, because in the civil suit he got hit with like 3 or 4, and I think there's like general torts, I think they call them. So bear in mind, like I worked for like criminal law, right? So whenever I was reading statutes, whenever we were charging people, whenever we went to the court, whenever we talked to the state attorney, we were talking about criminal statutes. And effectively with criminal statutes, you have to violate subsections in order for them to stick. Whereas a general tort, I don't even know what like the subcomponents of like emotional damages. I don't know what that is. I would have to take a look at civil law. But effectively, I wouldn't be surprised if some of those stuck, but you have to understand that with civil law, it's my understanding that you have to prove damages, right? Or you have to be able to articulate them. And what I mean by that is you have to say, especially with like, there's punitive, there's emotional, and I think there's actual. So with actual damages, you have to be able to show that like, because Steven did what he did, I lost $50,000 in revenue because I got fired from my job and my annual salary was $50,000 and I've been out of a job for a year. That would be actual damages. With emotional and punitive, I don't even know if emotional is like a subcomponent of punitive. I would have to look all this stuff up. But I think with punitive damages, it can actually be a fairly flexible dollar amount. Like I think that the court can approve whatever dollar amount they want. But with punitive, it's supposed to correlate to the crime. So, or the offense. So I think that Steven's defense team will probably have the ability to articulate like, listen, Steven didn't do revenge porn. He didn't leak this intentionally. He didn't have the goal of hurting, hurting Pixie intentionally. However, through a little bit of recklessness, they'll never admit that he was massively reckless. Through a little bit of recklessness, he accidentally hurt her. So as a result, the punitive damages should be in line with his intent, and the actual damages, not some, premeditated sociopathic bullshit, right? So that's where, for me, I think it would probably, just general prediction, I could be totally wrong. I think it'll shake out to a few $100K, but I would be surprised by a dollar amount more than that.
In the past has done these long takedown pieces with like bomb after.
Oh, sorry. There's another piece of evidence for why I feel the way that I feel. The other piece of evidence is allegedly, I'm not saying this is accurate. I'm saying this is what Steven said on stream. Allegedly, Pixie's lawyers asked for a settle amount greater than 150K. If that's true, that would tell me that they think they have him on the main statute, because the liquidated damages are 150K for the main statute. And so they think that they can nail him on the liquidated damage amount. They're not sure about everything else. So if he offered more than 150K, they would call that a win and walk away. Now, that's alleged from Steven, who might have a reason to fudge what they're saying. But that's my understanding. And that's why I would still guess around a settlement being around a few $100K.
After bomb of things he's been able to scrounge together to articulate his arguments. And in many cases, he was even right. Okay? What I'm trying to tell you is that Destiny, the one that you're used to seeing, was not the Destiny that got on stream and did like an hour yesterday. That was a scared That was a terrified Destiny who was trying to claw at the rest of his community. In all of the controversies that Destiny's ever been in, when do you see him start acting the way he's acting, threatening to fucking assault people?
Listen, as somebody who has threatened to eat Queeman on stream, I'm just going to say Queeman has a unique ability to get under people's skin. He has little brother syndrome. He knows what to say in order to push your buttons. And also, I would love to fight Queeman in real life. I think Queeman on his stream, he said that in order to participate in Creator Clash, he would accept an American visa and $50,000 in cash. I don't have the ability to provide that. However, if somehow this got back to iDubbbz, I think a Queeman versus Destiny fight would be absolute fire. I think it would be total fire. I think Queeman might be a little bit taller, but he's lighter, he's skinnier. Steven has a lot of money, so he would be able to work out. I think that would be a killer fight. So I would pay a $50 pay-per-view in order to watch Queeman versus Destiny, 100%. And I think thousands of other people would as well.
Saying that Chud Logic is a pedophile, starting mass flagging campaigns. Maybe he does.
I don't think Queeman's that short. I don't know if he's that short. He might joke about that. But Steven's still mid-5s. So if Queeman was 5'2" and kind of scrappy, and if Steven was 5'8" and kind of skinny, then I think that would be a killer fight. I think that'd be awesome. I would train Steven. I would forget all of my moral objections to Steven's conduct. I would train both of them. I would train Steven and Queeman.
These things in isolation, but he's done all these things in the last hour. This is all happening right now. He's terrified. This was not a well-organized nuke that was dropped on everybody. This is a guy on the last legs trying to scrounge together what little audience he can continuously maintain, who was sitting there idly waiting for his response.
So here's my thing. I don't think 9K people are watching Steven do boring political coverage right now because they hate him and they're waiting for the fall off. I think probably, if I had to guess on a high end, I would say 2K are watching to see if he's going to say something schizo and if he's going to fall off. There's probably 2K that might be hate watching, but I don't think 9K are hate watching. Yeah, Andrew Paris, last leg, still has 10K viewers. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think that Queeman, Lav, Mr. Girl overestimated their position massively in the first couple of weeks of this drama. And I think that Nick is not blinded by hate, but he's allowing his hate to presume too much. Counterfire says, too bad we never got that fight with that dude that banged Hunter Avalon's wife. Can't remember. Yeah. I remember, or I would. Black gentleman. I forget his name. Man, if he wants to come to Orlando, I would still do it. I just didn't have the money. I didn't have the money. We got like $300-$400 towards the fight. But it wasn't enough. Come on, I'm trying to think of his name. I to be honest, I think it's better if we forget him. But yeah, like I would still fight that guy. Like if he came by Orlando and he wanted to do a sparring match, I would do it. Grassroots Hegemon, if it were Speed Shuren, aka Copenseed, I'd have good money on Copenseed. True. You would try to train Queeman, but eat him on accident? True. I might get hungry halfway through training. That's true. Also, who generally gets angry with Queeman? Me. I get angry with Queeman. He's a frustrating person to talk to.
That's all that it was.
So what is there to debate here? What is there to discuss? My mind is made up that Destiny did this, okay? And so far in this video...
Unlike all those other situations, Destiny is like obviously guilty here, and he was obviously guilty the entire time.
He has not addressed this once. I know he tries to in a moment, but he has not addressed this at all. And it's all deflection and distraction. So I'm looking for this. I'm thinking, right, surely at some point he's going to get to this. And at no point has he meaningfully, directly addressed this. It's all distraction, deflection, all of it.
He didn't read this one message, like the one that has been sent to him the most, right? Like, this is the one he got ratioed with. This is the one that got community noted under his reply. He just left it out. That's crazy.
Seemingly to feed a narrative to the DGG fucking crony retards that are going to gobble this up.
So hold on. So this is like the main point that I think is that I might rehash several times as we're watching. And to be honest, I might just like make a couple of points and go get some lunch in a minute or some dinner in a minute, just because I am getting hangry. But to the DGG simps who hang out in my chat or watch this stuff as VODs, to my knowledge, unless these messages get proven as faked, you cannot deny this. This is why Chud Logic has a strong position. This is why Nick DiOrio has a strong position. This is why you won't be able to shake them off of this position, is because allegedly it is not in dispute that Steven sent those messages. It's not in dispute that they were leaked from that profile. It's not in dispute that Steven did not have explicit consent. It's not in dispute that Steven apologized after the incident. And as a matter of fact, we could look to outside sources like, like Dan and Erudite corroborating the situation and them negotiating with Pixie as further evidence that he knew he did something wrong, right? So you're not going to be able to get away from that. The only thing that Steven did, which I don't think Chud or Nick acknowledge as relevant, I think that they only want to focus on this thing because this is, the meat and potatoes of the drama. They don't want to acknowledge that Lauren has a bias, because even if she has a bias against Steven, that doesn't have anything to do with the truth. Okay? That doesn't have anything to do with what's factual about the case. So Lauren hating Steven in participating in the GoFundMe doesn't affect the truth of this allegation. Then Pixie sharing porn, homemade porn with Steven, it adds context to the situation, but it doesn't change the facts of the matter. And so the context for me is Queeman and Lav basically jumping down my throat on the first day of the drama saying, oh, he's a rapist, he's a sex predator, he's a groomer, he's a piece of shit, he deserves to be on the sex offender registry, he's a sex predator, blah, 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 blah. And they just hit that over and over and over and over again. And to be honest, there were a lot of people who supported their perspective in the initial days of the drama. So I think that the Pixie DMs take away from that narrative, but that's a narrative expressed by Queeman and Lav, not expressed by Pixie. And so for Chud and Nick, I think they correctly don't care about it because they didn't get their shit jumped on by Lav and Queeman. So yeah. I'm going to check in with chat real quick. And to be honest, we might watch like another point or two, but I'm getting pretty hungry, to be honest. So it's kind of a late stream. That's my fault, but it is what it is. This is why Steven is like Trump. So you would have to expand on that, right? If I was thinking of Roy Cohn, all right, there's, as a matter of fact, I'm just going to kind of talk to y'all and then I'm probably going to wrap up. Roy Cohn was one of Trump's mentors, and he came up with the thing like deny, deflect, go on the offensive, never admit you're wrong, all that kind of stuff. And I think that Trump has used that playbook for the past few decades in order to puff up his perspective and his persona and this, that, the other. And you see it in the way that he talks. He'll never admit fault. Everything he does is the greatest thing ever. He's the best person, blah, 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 blah. And I think that Steven, especially when I was watching him 4 or 5 years ago, he had this alleged commitment to the truth where if something does not line up with his perception of reality, he will modify his perception of reality. He said that plenty of times, right? And I think that that is part of the reason why he resonated with people like me and other people who don't agree with him politically, but admired the fact that he was at least committed to facts and his perception of the truth. Okay. I think that when it comes to dramas and debates, though, he's admitted that he's had different styles of rhetoric for drama and debates, which is basically like, you're wrong, I'm right, I'm not going to concede anything, and I'm going to pull away from your points and I'm going to reinforce my own, right? I think he's admitted that he does that in debates. But when it comes to this situation, again, with Dan and Erudite talking about him being contrite, him being sorry, him being this, him being that, a contrite person would say, sorry, I fucked up, I'll try to make amends. That would have been it, right? And people could have called him a rapist and this, that, the other, and it wouldn't have mattered because he would have said, I don't agree with those people. I don't agree with their characterization of what I've done. However, I did do something wrong. I'm sorry. Here's my amends, right? But instead, he does go on the offensive. In this situation, if you had already made the apology admitting that you're fucked up, you should feel bad that you're maligning someone whom you hurt. That should feel bad to you. But it doesn't. And it seems like he's comfortable going on the offensive. Grassroots Hegemon says that counterpoints that was special Ed Sheeran versus Destiny, not you, lol. Probably true. Vanessa for the truth. He's all the things of what he did to Sherry and a few others he's recorded without their consent. That is, so this is the interesting thing, right? So I'm going to articulate this. You don't have to agree with me. I don't care. This is the most violating thing that he's done because he did it without the consent of the involved party. It is also the least violative thing that they've done because barring the fact that you know those persons' voices, which Sherry is a public person, so that actually is pretty fucked up, you wouldn't know that it was that person. And you could never confirm it. You could just be like, hey, is this your voice? Which is what happened. They were like, hey, is this your voice? So that's level of gooner shit. That is effectively, there's a statute called digital voyeurism, and it's recording people without their consent with video. The only reason why Steven hasn't violated that statute is because it's for video and photos, not for audio. And so here's the thing. Let's say that we split up sex crime categories into 3 categories. Let's say 1 through 3 is sex pest as far as like levels of violation. Let's say 4 through 6 is sex offense. And let's say 7 through 10 is like sex predator as far as like crimes go, right? So we have 3 categories. It's broken up on a scale of 10 so we can conceptualize it, right? That action of recording people's audio without their consent, if we're evaluating where crime starts and where sex pest behavior is, it's a 3.5. And so it's not criminal, but it's about to get criminal. And so if people want to say this is indicative of potentially worse behavior that we think he's playing with, and as a result, we're not going to be surprised if more shit comes to light, that's a sober take for me. But if you're saying we know he did 3.5, therefore he's a 7, I'm going to disagree with you on the facts of the matter until we get more facts. Vanessa for Truth says, we all know Steven is not capable of admitting when he's wrong. I think that if we actually looked at his body of work, we could probably find some cases of him admitting when he's wrong. Christian Blair says, it's actually amazing how fucking bad Brit bonger culture is. Shit food, shit weather, shit teeth. I mean, I hear you there. Destiny is a CUNT. I've observed this for many years. Jesus. Hafer says, I came in pretty late, but you've described things pretty accurately from what I've heard so far. I mean, like that's what I try to do. Like honestly, whenever I get in trouble, oftentimes it's not even for me. It's because of other people that I'm associated with. And it's because I'm not calling balls and strikes. And that's 90% of what I do is I just call balls and strikes. I just say what I think is true. So I think I just need to not invest so much of my emotional energy in defending the honor of other people. And I just need to call balls and strikes. And from that, I've never gotten in trouble for calling balls and strikes and only worrying about myself. The question is whether or not that's good content, though. Vanessa for Truth says, it doesn't matter if he ever shared it. He's having relations with people under false pretenses, and that's a massive violation. Vanessa, I agree with you. However, I want you to think about this, and this is where I'm, my morals are different, but the law is different. And some people will argue against my morals. So for instance, I think that in high school, right, there were seniors who are 18 who are going out with freshmen and sophomores who are 16 or 15, right? And so they're following the law as far as Romeo and Juliet laws go. However, they are taking advantage of the immaturity and inexperience of young girls in order to take advantage of their higher esteem and position within the social hierarchy of high school. If you wanted to call that in a lay sense predatory because it was taking advantage of your experience and age in order to seduce someone who was immature and inexperienced, I would agree with you with the lay use of the word predatory. However, if you want to criminalize 18-year-olds dating 15-year-olds and label them rapists, I'm going to disagree with you. Same thing with people going downtown, right? People go downtown. I live in Central Florida. People go to downtown Orlando all the time and they get wasted. Okay. They get blackout and brown out drunk. They make out with a bunch of strangers, hopefully one stranger. And then some of them end up banging. And there was a bartender who told me that there are gentlemen who go downtown who will show up within the last hour or two in order to socialize with the people who are brown out or blackout in an attempt to, one, save money on alcohol, and two, seduce the brown out or blackout ladies. Some of that shit is rape. I'm not going to lie. The people who are fucking blackout people and they know they're blackout, that's fucking rape. But are we going to prohibit people from going downtown, getting wasted, and hooking up with people they barely know? And so again, if you want to label people who hook up with drunk people in a predatory fashion, predatory in a lay sense, I'm going to agree with you 100%. If you want me to criminalize it and say that getting drunk downtown and picking up strangers is sex predation and needs to be legally prohibited, nah. We all need to be more responsible. You shouldn't go downtown and get fucked up unless you're interested in that kind of behavior. Your core rec for $10. He says, you know why I do it? I do it to discredit you and demean you all. So when you write negative stories about me, no one will believe it. I'll add context to the quote in chat. Interesting. Horatio Mantooth says at counterpoints, do you feel if Destiny is in court, will his ego override his logical side and force a judge to debate me, bro, to prove he's clear of any wrongdoing? No. His lawyers will talk. He won't talk. His lawyers will encourage him to remain silent while the adults talk in the room. Christian Blair says she was on a podcast with the wives, girlfriends of Twitch years back and talked about her and Destiny sharing porn. No way. Who? Oh, Christian Blair says the issue with Melina is I'm almost positive she admitted to sharing porn with lovers without explicit consent. Yep. No, nobody cares. Nobody talks about Melina for two reasons. One, she's an OnlyFans model, so she already creates sexual content and shares it with other people as a source of revenue. Two, allegedly, the porn that was originally created was because Steven and Melina both agreed that it was hot for them to create homemade pornographic content and to share it with potential hookups. That is allegedly where a lot of this content was created. And that's part of Steven's defense through the inferred consent thing, which, by the way, don't agree with, right? And all of this behavior is fucking degenerate. I'm not defending any of this. Like, you shouldn't do any of this shit, right? We're talking about it because it's, let's face it, sex and blood leads, right? So anyways, the reason why it was inferred consent was because Pixie allegedly inferred consent that Steven would share that with Melina. Now, Nick DiOrio correctly argues that just because he might have been expected to share it with Melina doesn't mean that he had unlimited license to share it with everybody, right? Good point. Absolutely agree on the age gap issues with high schoolers. Yeah, like it's still predatory, but you don't call 18-year-olds who date 16-year-olds sex predators, right? You say they're kids, they're growing up, they're figuring it out. The 16-year-old needs to take some level of responsibility for what they're doing and who they're choosing to share their body with. Therefore, even if there's a predatory element, we need to let this slide so that people can figure out how to be responsible with sex and relationships. That's what we say. The quote from the super chat is from John Roush's The Constitution of Knowledge, and this was CBS Leslie Stahl's recount in asking Trump in 2018 if he'd stop attacking the press. You know why I do it? I do it to discredit you all and to demean you all, so when you write negative stories about me, no one will believe it. True. That's why going on the offensive, right? That's why it rubs people wrong. So when Steven is going on the offensive with Pixie, even if what he's saying is true, it's not to deny his own guilt. It's to vilify his opponent. And I think that people need to be sober with that analysis. Abby Rhodes says, I agree so much. Personal accountability is very important. Well, you're probably a liberal, but realistically, Abby Rhodes, you saying that personal accountability is very important in normal spaces, that's going to make you a liberal who has some social conservative instincts. However, in Twitch and YouTube politics, you might as well be a fucking Nazi. Vanessa for Truth says, yeah, unfortunately, society doesn't think that sex workers, nude models deserve a right to privacy. I agree with the sentiment that society doesn't treat sex workers well, but we probably share different instincts and moral judgments on this, on Melina. Horatio Mantooth says, counterpoints, have you seen Legal Mindset or the lawyer who appeared on Adam and Sitch's show react to Destiny's reaction to a lawyer opinions on his case? Yeah, I saw the Chud Logic content, and I didn't see anything hugely wrong with it. The one thing that I think I objected to, I think that Chud objected to, because he was like, oh yeah, Steven's a groomer. And I was like, that has connotations about like grooming kids. You know what I'm saying? I would say from what we've seen, Pixie was pretty enthusiastic about their participation. So, and she's an adult. She was an adult woman. She was a 20-year-old, right? 20-year-old or 19-year-old, right? So you can say that's young. You can say that's inexperienced. You can say that Steven dating 19-year-olds is predatory because he's an older man who's taken advantage of the lack of experience of younger people. You can say that you dislike that. But I would make that same argument about Leonardo DiCaprio. I would literally say Leonardo DiCaprio is a 50-year-old man. He's a multimillionaire. He's world famous, and he's also world famous for being a good-looking guy. And yet he starts dating women when they're 18 years old, and he dumps them at 25. That is like retarded, groomy behavior that shows that Leonardo DiCaprio is a sexually stunted human being. Now, it's his right as a free person in the United States of America to do that. It is my right to say that it's gross and bad. It is the 18-year-old girl's right to knowingly participate in that relationship. Is what it is. All right. So anyways, we still got 60 people hanging out cross-platform, even though I've just been engaging with chat for the past 20 minutes. I do parasocially love you, but I am hungry, and I had a very busy and stressful week, and I'm going to have a very, very busy and stressful week coming up. I will be gone next weekend. I will be going to a wedding in the Carolinas, so I will not be seeing you next weekend. All the donations, seriously, thank you. I had a dozen people donate tonight. Probably half of them were grassroots hegemon, but thank you for your donations. I'm going to go ahead and read out some names in chat. We got You Are Correct. Thank you. Grassroots Hegemon. Thank you for your donations. Common Cure. Thank you for your donation. Revolution, Mithridite, and Biz D. Thank you for your donations. They are sincerely appreciated. Of course, if you're not a member already, you don't have that much money burning a hole in your pocket, but you do want to contribute financially to the thing, become a YouTube member. It is appreciated. Money is never required. Your viewership, you hanging out in chat, you participating, you talking to the other people in chat is greatly appreciated. And then also we have things to celebrate, right? Even though YouTube politics I haven't been able to engage with as much as I want to, or get as big as I want to. Warhammer 40K, we just broke 100,000 subs on Warhammer 40K. I have a silver play button back here. I have a silver play button back here for the Counterpoints 40K channel. I'm not a millionaire, but it makes some money that helps me pay my bills. So we need to there's a lot of stressful, scary things happening in the planet right now, but you need to count your blessings or you'll never appreciate how good you have it. And so there are plenty of things that are stressing me out and pissing me off right now, but I'm trying to count my blessings and be very thankful. And I'm thankful to the 85 people we peaked out at, like, 85, 90 who were checking out dry Ukrainian political analysis. That's awesome. Thank you to the 85 to 90 people who checked us out at our peak. Thank you to the 80 people who hung out for Destiny Drama. And thank you to the 60 people who hung out with me bullshitting with chat. So don't forget Discord shout out. Yeah, so we do have a Discord. Let me see if I can get the link. It's very frustrating to me because I'm trying to click on the link and it's like hidden use copy button. Click copy. It says copied. And it says, when I link it, it says hidden use copy button. What the fuck? Why don't you just give me a link, you piece of shit? So anyways, just DM me on Twitter, CounterConnor, COUNTERCONOR. I'll get you a link. And sorry that's not working here. But anyways, pretty down to earth words. Well, thank you. Thank you. I try to remember that I was a human being for a decade and a half before I started doing YouTube and all that kind of stuff. So I'll try to stay grounded as much as I can. Your Core Rex says 07 to the play button counterfire. Get those memberships going here too. True. You are correct. I think they're live. I linked, or I filled out the page and YouTube said it approved it. So if you're not seeing the button, let me know. Destiny Drama does get clicks, relatively speaking. I think because he's live right now, he's got like 10K live viewers or whatever. Bibliolife says here it is, and then there's no link. It's probably because links are disabled. I see no join button yet. Okay, well, we'll work on it. The memberships are approved by YouTube, so I just need to figure out how to make sure that it's actually live. But anyways, thank you. You are correct. Thank you, Bibliolife. Thank you, Horatio, Hafer, Abbey Road. Hope to see you in the future. I hope you had a good time. Christian Valeris, obviously, Vanessa, Shuma, Grassroots. Thank you all for coming and hanging out. I hope you had a good time. I hope the people who watched the Ukrainian stuff enjoyed the Ukrainian stuff. I hope the people who watched the drama stuff felt like they at least got a few insights. I'm going to go eat some food and hang out with the family. Parasocial love to you and yours. Horatio says, I'm waiting for the meme for Ben Thorpe dressed as Vader talking on Luke's Destiny saying, your training is complete. Yeah. That should scare Steven, right? Becoming Ben Thorpe should scare the fuck out of him. So if Ben Thorpe is, maximally a hedonist, which I'm not sure if he is. I've heard him say conservative things. I've heard him say some pretty wild shit too. But yeah, you should be afraid of losing the plot. Dr. Zaya says, thank you, Connor. A pleasure as always. Thanks for hanging out. I do appreciate you as well. All right. Y'all have a beautiful night. I'm going to go get some food. I appreciate y'all. I keep saying that because I do. Have a great night. Bye for now.